Chapter 1400. Space Instant Transmission. Space Great Transmission. With the two space laws, Lin Feng's speed doubled. He used space instant transmission first and then changed his position. He happened to be in between the second space instant transmission. Soon, he entered the second region. Occasionally, he would bump into saints who were teleporting out. However, the 100-year period of the ancient myriad world secret realm was about to end. Although it didn't end exactly in 100 years, there were cases of 110 years, 120 years, and 130 years, but the Milky Way super black hole would awaken in 80 and 90 years. 100 years was just an average. This was also the reason why Lin Feng entered the fourth region. If the Milky Way super black hole awakened in 130 or 150 years, wouldn't he have wasted 40 or 50 years? He was wearing the Feng Yu black armor, and the black whirlpool in his bloodline could absorb the tearing force of space. He could resist 100% of the tearing force of the black hole for a short period of time. Even if the Milky Way super black hole awakened, he would have enough strength to leave. The other saints were the opposite. If they woke up early, they would be in trouble. Hence, they would usually leave early. The Essence Pearl Star of the second region is nearby. Let's go check it out. The more treasures, the better. Lin Feng quickly found the location and entered in a few teleportations. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He spread out his perception and was slightly surprised. There were clearly more martial artists here than in the third region. After all, cosmic system states couldn't enter the third region. Now, it was the 93rd year of the ancient myriad world secret realm. He had explored all that he could. To these cosmic system states, their fortuitous encounters were basically set. Many martial artists had already given up. Hence, the second region was very lively now. Lin Feng was familiar with the east and west half-stars. The east half-star was exchanging items for pearls, while the west half-star was exchanging items for items. However, unlike the third region, the east half-star was deserted and had very few martial artists. The west half-star, on the other hand, was bustling with activity. Lin Feng knew the reason. It was just as Chamu said. In the Essence Pearl Star of the second region, one Essence Pearl was often a lot. One Essence Pearl, a low-grade Law Essence Pearl, was equivalent to one low-grade Powerful Chaos Whole Dark Treasure and two superior-grade Ordinary Chaos Whole Dark Treasures. Saints might have such wealth, but many cosmic system states didn't. More than 90% of the people in the second region were cosmic system states. Let's go take a look at Planet East Half. Lin Feng immediately gave up on the western half-star. The bartering here was mostly for treasures that were worth less than one elemental bead. Naturally, they could not be sold on the eastern half-star. As for the eastern half-star, Lin Feng didn't have much hope. He wanted to see if there were any rare treasures. 100 elemental beads was basically the limit of transactions here, and there were very few of them. 100 origin beads were merely two top-notch high-grade Chaos Cave Profound treasures. To Lin Feng, it was indeed just nothing. I'll take this one. I want this one too. Lin Feng collected Eastern Half-Planet's Heaven and Earth fruit. He wanted almost all of them that could be sold for more than one essence bead. Among them, there were some that could strengthen one's body, some that could increase one's cultivation, and some that had special uses. These heaven and earth fruits were good stuff. Fast absorption, fast effect, and very little rejection from the body. Gulp. Swallowing an iron-green fruit, Lin Feng's eyes slightly brightened. A warm current spread throughout his body. His skin felt as if it was being burned by fire, and gradually became stiff. Then, his skin turned into a layer of keratin. After that, it shattered with a popping sound. His skin instantly became sparkling and translucent. It's increased by about 1%. Lin Feng clenched his fist and sensed it clearly. Although it was only 1%, he was already very satisfied. After all, his current physical fitness was too strong, and it would be harder to improve in the future. Many a little makes a mickle, and Lin Feng was not picky. These fruits can increase one's cultivation level. It's just right for the Tyrant Dragon clone. Unlike the true Dragon clone, the Tyrant Dragon clone was almost completely independent. When it was a cosmic system state, the Tyrant Dragon clone's bloodline was powerful, and its potential was greater than the main body's. However, as the main body's bloodline awakened and entered the black hole level, he had long forgotten about the Tyrant Dragon clone. Now, the Tyrant Dragon clone was devouring and digesting the Law of Earth elemental bead. The Tyrant Dragon was not weak in terms of talent in the path of Earth. However, the Law of Darkness was much more mediocre compared to the main body. Even if it devoured and digested the Law of Darkness elemental beads, it would take a long time. With all kinds of fruits of darkness, it could directly increase one's cultivation level. There are more heaven and earth fruits here than in the third region, Lin Feng thought to himself. Although there were fewer people on planet East Half, that was relative to planet West Half. In fact, planet East Half was much livelier than the third region. Those who sold heaven and earth fruits here were all martial artists who were exploring secret realms in the first and second regions. The first and second regions were large and had many secret realms. Naturally, there were more heaven and earth fruit. After one round, they had only explored half of planet East Half. Lin Feng had already spent nearly 1,000 elemental bead. However, it was worth it. Just the 15% increase in his physical fitness was enough to make him very satisfied. The increase in his strength was priceless. Lin Feng did not care about the elemental beads at the moment. Other rare treasures aside, the 8 illusory one beads alone were priceless. Although they might not be able to sell for 8,000 elemental beads like the first one, 6,000 elemental beads would not be far off. 8 beads would be close to 50,000 elemental beads. Of course, for many martial artists, the elemental beads were not very useful in the end. For example, Cha Mu and the experts on the Milky Way King Sage list were not very attractive to them. In the Milky Way, the top treasures were rarely sold, such as the Peak Chaos Whole Dark treasures. They were priceless. 15002000. Lin Feng did not hesitate to spend. The first 1,000 elemental beads had increased his physical fitness by 15%. The second 1,000 elemental beads had an average effect because many heaven and earth fruits were of the same type. The first time his body absorbed it, it was effective. The second time he absorbed it, the effect was halved. The third and fourth time he absorbed it, the increase in his physical fitness decreased. Overall, the harvest was still gratifying. Although there are fewer heaven and earth fruits in the third zone, the effect is better. Lin Feng nodded. He believed that by making another trip to the elemental bead star in the third zone, his physical fitness would increase by about 50% before he entered the fourth zone. 50%. To Lin Feng, this was enough to satisfy him. After all, his current physical fitness was comparable to that of a top-notch king expert. I wonder if they found any suitable treasures for me? Lin Feng was also looking forward to it. Before he left, he had asked Saint King Ying and the other 17 sisters, the largest supplier of law elemental beads in the elemental bead star, to help him look out for suitable treasures. More than 3 years had passed, and there might be some gains now. Let's go after we finish the rest. Lin Feng sped forward, clearly sensing his surroundings. Suddenly, Lin Feng felt a familiar aura. Chapter 1401. Brother, I only have 4 elemental beads. Can you help me? Ken Ran asked. I say, brother, this is not a charity hall. You also know the rules. A powerful high-grade chaotic whole profound treasure won't be sold at a high price, nor will we cheat you. It's only 5 origin pearls. A fair price, right? A burly man glanced over. It's a fair price, but this treasure is a little flawed. It hasn't been sold for so long. Qian Wu, who was beside Ken Ran, said, It's getting late. It'll be difficult to sell it after the ancient myriad world secret realm ends. Why don't you sell it to us? When it came to bargaining, women were always good at it. I'm not selling. The burly man refused. Brother, we're only short of one elemental bead. We owe you a favor. Let's be friends, Yuan Pei said while playing with the dagger in his hand. Don't pretend to be friends. We're not friends. The burly man glared. The warriors of the Silver Martial Empire were not on good terms with the Donghuang Empire. Ken Ran and the other two looked embarrassed. The other party didn't give them any face. Moreover, they were only nebula states while the other party was a saint. Aren't the three of you from the 100 Saints Martial Palace? You're the biggest force in the Donghuang Empire. You don't lack money, do you? The burly man rolled his eyes. Ken Ran, Qian Wu, and Yuan Pei were helpless. They were only nebula states and had a good relationship. Even so, the three of them only had 4 elemental beads in total, which was more than 99% of nebula state. It was not a problem to buy an ordinary chaos whole dark treasure. However, it was a little difficult to buy a powerful chaos whole dark treasure. Why don't we just forget it? Yuan Pei frowned. He didn't like to deal with people and didn't like to ask for help. Especially since he had just been rejected in person, it was a little embarrassing. Let's look for something else, Qian Wu persuaded. Ken Ran sighed and nodded. However, his eyes were fixed on the upper-grade chaos whole dark treasure. It was difficult to look away. As the saying goes, it's hard to buy what's best in one's heart with 1,000 gold taels of gold. It wasn't easy for him to find a treasure that was perfectly compatible with him, but he had no money. I'll buy it. Suddenly, a voice sounded. The burly man's eyes suddenly lit up, but the expressions of Qi Ran and the others changed. But when they saw the familiar black figure, the three of them were stunned. That face and that faint smile were all too familiar. Lin Feng! Lin Feng? The 3 hall leaders were dumbfounded. They did not expect to see Lin Feng here. They had entered the ancient myriad world's mystic realm together with Crane Saint. At that time, Lin Feng was only at the Silver Heart realm. Now, he was actually able to come to the second region? It can't be? The 3 of them suddenly felt their hearts skip a beat. They immediately looked behind Lin Feng, but did not see anyone else. The saint didn't come? Qi Ran couldn't help but ask. Teacher. Lin Feng smiled. We separated in the 3rd area. I don't know where he is now. However, he should have returned with eldest senior brother and 4th senior sister. Qi Ran and the other 2 nodded. That's not right? 3rd region. Qian Wu's eyes widened as she stared at Lin Feng. Qi Ran and Yuan Pei also reacted. They looked at Lin Feng in confusion and disbelief. Lin Feng could go to the 3rd region? The 3 of them were only cosmic system states, so they couldn't see through Lin Feng. What's there to be surprised about? The burly man sneered. This little brother is extremely talented. He's already an upper saint at such a young age. He has a bunch of top-grade chaos whole treasures. Of course, he'll be in the 3rd region. Having been doing business here for many years, the burly man's eyesight was quite good. Here. Lin Feng smiled and handed over the 5 essence beads. Sure, brother, you're really straightforward. The burly man then handed over a powerful, sapphire-blue, oval-shaped chaos whole treasure. Lin Feng didn't take it and pointed at Tianran. The burly man was dazed and immediately understood. With some envy in his eyes, the burly man stuffed the treasure into Qi Ran's hands. You should have said earlier that a rich man is paying for you. I knew it. The 100 Saints Martial Palace is the #1 force in the Donghuang Empire. How could they lack money? Little brother, you're so generous and loyal. The burly man gave a thumbs up. He wanted to make friends with Lin Feng, but he rarely saw Lin Feng smile. Helplessly, he awkwardly laughed twice and resentfully left. Lin Feng. No, Saint, what are you doing? Qi Ran didn't know what to do. Even Qian Wu and Yuan Pei were confused. Wasn't this too rich? How could he give away a high-grade chaos whole treasure just like that? The three of them looked at Lin Feng with completely different eyes. 200 years ago, they watched Lin Feng enter the Dongwang Empire and join the Hundred Saints' martial palace. He was just a newcomer back then. Unknowingly, Lin Feng had already appeared where they were looking up at. An upper-level saint. Even in the Dongwang Empire, or even the entire Milky Way, he was a top expert. It's just a small token of my appreciation. Please accept it, Hall Master Luo. Lin Feng smiled faintly, his eyes flashing. I will never forget the kindness of promoting me that day. Without Hall Master Luo's recommendation, how could he be where he was now? Lin Feng was not an ungrateful person. Well, Qi Ran was grateful and a little embarrassed. That was 5 elemental beads. It was too precious. Yuan Pei and Qian Wu were amazed. There were too few genius warriors like him who didn't forget their root. Many warriors were so arrogant after reaching the saint level that they wouldn't even look at them. By the way, Qi Ran, you've reached the black hole level. You're cultivating earth defense, right? Lin Feng asked suddenly. Although Qi Ran didn't know how Lin Feng knew, he still nodded and said, Yes, Saint. Qian Wu's beautiful eyes rolled. I've told him before. If he had comprehended Earth Elemental lower order, he would have become a lower saint. There were many similarities between Earth Elemental Dao and Earth Elemental Dao. Lin Feng smiled. Then, he waved his hand, and an upper-level Law Elemental bead appeared in his hand. Qi Ran and the other two widened their eyes. Earth Defense, Law Elemental bead. Take it and refine it, Qi Ran. Lin Feng stuffed it into the hands of Qi Ran, who was in a daze, and nodded to the three of them. Qi Ran, I have something to do and will leave first. See you again. After that, Lin Feng teleported and disappeared. Qi Ran and the other two were dumbfounded. They looked at the Law Elemental bead with a dull expression. That was an upper-level Law Elemental bead. One was equivalent to 30 elemental beads. Crazy! Qian Wu and Yuan Pei muttered. They had risked their lives in the ancient 10,000 Worlds secret territory for 90 years. In the end, it wasn't as good as the one Qi Ran casually gave? Lin Feng. Qi Ran raised his head and looked at the figure in the distance. He held the Law Elemental bead in his hand and smiled bitterly. I was right that day. This child has a limitless future. Chapter 1402. It was easy to get 1,000 gold coins, but hard to find a talent scout. Lin Feng was indebted to Hall Master Luo. Now that he had the ability to repay her, Lin Feng wouldn't be stingy with the treasures she offered. Hall Master Luo was a peak cosmic system state, and she was only a step away from the black hole state. Once she refined and comprehended a corresponding superior law origin bead, she would naturally succeed. It would take a few years, a few hundred years, or even a few thousand years to break through. Wasn't this the reason they risked their lives to enter the ancient myriad world secret realm? My body has improved by about 25%. Lin Feng continuously used spatial teleportation and greater spatial teleportation to head towards the third region. By now, he was already familiar with the ancient myriad world secret realm. The heaven and earth fruits in the third region's origin bead star are few in number and expensive, but their effects are shocking. Actually, a large portion of them aren't in the second region's origin bead star. Conservatively speaking, the effects are similar to the second region's. One relied on quality while the other relied on quantity. Every great leap in life order would increase the strength of one's body. It was very difficult to make up for it later on. Therefore, increasing one's body to the limit would maximize the benefits of the leap in life order. My current body shouldn't be too far from the limit of a dark matter powerhouse. My body will reach its limit after increasing it by 80% to 120%. This time, I can increase it by about 50%. After leaving the ancient myriad world secret realm, it won't be hard to increase it by another 50% before reaching the immortal chaotic whole. Lin Feng calculated. although he focused more on the law Tao than the Tao of strength. There was no harm in increasing his body's strength. Soon, Lin Feng entered the third region. He came to the origin bead star again, and found Saint King Ying and her sisters. They came from the Sky Illusion Empire, and were the biggest supplier of law origin beads here. They had worked together once, so they were familiar with each other. Young Master Lin. Saint King Ying personally welcomed him with a smile. The feather crown on her head emitted a clear light, and the bright wings on her back made her look like a fairy. Saint King Ying. Lin Feng smiled back. Time is short, so I didn't get much. However, there are 3 treasures that I believe you might be interested in. Saint King Ying's voice was very pleasant. Lin Feng nodded. As an expert ranked 79th on the Milky Way King Sage board, his judgment would not be bad. The first item is a top-tier high-grade light speed type Chaos Cavern Dark Treasure. Saint King Ying waved her hand, and in an instant, a pair of milky white wings appeared, floating quietly in the air. The dense Tao of light speed could be clearly felt. Lin Feng couldn't help but glance at the wings on Holy King Ying's back. They were very similar. You're right, Sir Lin. It's very similar to my wings. It's a flying treasure, and it's very useful in battle, Saint King Ying said. In a battle, there was a lot of dodging and teleporting, especially in close combat. Basically, no one would use teleportation. At this time, the quality of one's movement technique would greatly affect one's battle strength. The second item is a top-grade Chaos Cave Dark Treasure. Holy King Ying took out a string of amber-colored bead. There were a total of 18 beads, and each bead seemed to be extraordinary. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Top-tier high-grade Chaos Cave Dark Treasures were easy to find, but supreme-grade ones were hard to find. Looking at the amber-colored beads, Lin Feng was surprised. A Realm Force treasure? Holy King Ying nodded. Although it's not a top-grade Chaos Cave Dark Treasure, its effects are comparable. Holy King Ying smiled. You have to think carefully about this Realm Force treasure. It's worth 1,000 origin beads. Lin Feng looked at Holy King Ying. A normal supreme-grade Chaos Cave Dark Treasure only cost 200 origin beads. This one cost 5 times more? 1,000 origin beads is enough to buy a mid-grade peak Chaos Cave Dark Treasure. Lin Feng looked curious. What's so special about this bead chain? Previously, when he bought a high-grade peak Chaos Cave Dark Treasure from the Luoxing realm, he only spent 600 origin beads. This is an extremely rare beast-taming treasure. Holy King Ying picked up the bead chain and pointed. Each bead is an independent mustard seed space that can control a Chaos Cave beast. Lin Feng understood. 18 beads could control 18 Chaos Cave beasts. Why are the colors different? Lin Feng asked curiously. 3 of the 18 beads were black, green, and crimson. The other 15 beads were the same. It looked strange and beautiful at the same time. I don't know, Holy King Ying said. Sage King Ying said, I coincidentally received it a year ago, and it cost me 900 origin pearls. Okay, Lin Feng replied. He naturally didn't believe Holy King Ying's words. However, no matter how much she spent, the key was whether this treasure was worth the price. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he looked at the 18 beads. He could vaguely sense them. 15 translucent, milky white beads are full of energy. Only those 3. Lin Feng thought to himself. However, his perception couldn't detect the 3 beads of different colors. It was like a piece of lifeless air that had already lost its energy. I believe young Master Lin doesn't lack money. Holy King Ying smiled. Even if these 3 beads are broken, there are still 15 beads that can capture 15 Chaos Cave beasts. That's equivalent to 15 Saint. 1,000 origin beads isn't expensive. A thought suddenly appeared in Lin Feng's mind. His eyes widened. Could it be? With this thought in mind, Lin Feng's eyes flashed and he shook his head. Let's look at the third one, Lin Feng said. Holy King Ying was stunned. Young Master Lin, are you not interested in this treasure? I am, but it's too expensive. Lin Feng said, this treasure is neither too expensive nor too cheap. It might be useful to cultivators who have just stepped into the black hole realm, but it's useless to people like me. Lin Feng looked at Holy King Ying and said, Holy King Ying should be able to sense that my strength is comparable to an ordinary Holy King. Holy King Ying's beautiful eyes flashed as she nodded slightly. Of course she knew. Otherwise, she wouldn't have lowered herself to personally receive Lin Feng. So, let alone 15 Chaos Cave beasts, even 50 or 100 would be the same. Lin Feng shook his head and said, this is just icing on the cake. It's fine to accept it at the normal price, but 1,000 origin beads is too expensive. Holy King Ying's beautiful face changed again and again as she frowned. Let's look at the next item, Holy King Ying. Lin Feng said, his voice filled with calculation as he forced Holy King Ying. As expected, Holy King Ying hesitated for a moment before saying, how much can young Master Lin pay? Lin Feng smiled inwardly. With Holy King Ying's words, there was basically no problem. After bargaining for a while, Lin Feng finally obtained this treasure of little value with 330 origin beads and put it away. If it's really as I've guessed, then not to mention 330 origin beads, even if it's 3,300 origin beads, it's far more than worth it. Lin Feng nodded inwardly. Chapter 1403. Zone 3, Multicolor Secret Realm. Multicolored and poisonous flowers covered the entire secret realm like clouds, and the colors were gorgeous. That brat has finally appeared. The white-haired elder took a bite of the brightly colored fruit. His wrinkled face twisted like a fried dough twist, looking ferocious and terrifying. The poison of the brightly colored fruit made his face turn green, but it returned to normal in an instant. Kill him! A deep and cold voice came from the red-haired elder beside the white-haired elder. The multicolor fruit was extremely delicious, but it was a pity that it was poisonous. However, to the two powerful elders of the Golden Lion sect, it didn't make much of a difference whether it was poisonous or not. I knew it. That brat has appeared in the Origin Pearl Star before. He'll definitely come again. The white-haired elder's eyes were filled with hatred. He's really here. Big brother, avenge green eyebrows. The red-haired elder's wrinkled face was filled with killing intent. If we weren't waiting for him, we would have entered the secret realm of death with the sect master and the 4 divine envoys. The white-haired elder said angrily, if we don't skin him alive, how can we face green eyebrows' spirit in heaven? Let's go. At this moment, Lin Feng and Holy King Ying had just finished trading the beast-taming bead necklace. I feel like I've been cheated by you. Holy King Ying glared at him as her bright wings flapped gently. How could that be? Lin Feng smiled. The true value of this beast-taming bead necklace is to leave it for the heirs of those big families and factions as a protective treasure. It's actually not very useful for realm power cultivators. To tame a chaos beast, one must first be stronger than the chaos beast. In that case, what's the difference between using it and not using it? Holy King Ying looked straight at Lin Feng. Then why did you buy it? To keep it. Lin Feng rubbed his nose and smiled. It's not bad to give it to my child to protect him in the future. Forget it. Holy King Ying rolled her eyes. Lin Feng smiled. Holy King Ying was smart enough not to make a losing deal. Even if he bought the beast-taming bead necklace for 330 origin pearls, she would still make a profit. However, this time, he might earn even more. What about the third one? Lin Feng was also a little curious. The treasures that Holy Monarch Ying had brought out were each better than the last. The third treasure at the bottom of the chest was definitely something extraordinary. Saint King Ying snorted. Suddenly, clang! A powerful dark devil energy gushed out. Lin Feng's eyes widened as he stared at the pitch-black saber that had suddenly appeared in front of him, as if he was suffocating. His heartbeat quickened, and an incomparable sense of harmony spread from the bottom of his heart. It was as if all the cells in his body were calling out to him. What is this? A dark magic saber. Lin Feng held his breath, his eyes shining brightly. Unlike the 7 blue battle saber, this was a battle saber that was perfectly compatible with him. It was a chaos dark treasure that could unleash 120% of its power. Most importantly, it was compatible with his own laws. Dark magic. Peak high-grade chaos whole profound treasure, hell soul-severing saber. Holy monarch Yingying's beautiful eyes shone like stars. Her sexy red lips parted slightly as she said, "Fixed price, 4,500 origin beads. I'll take it." Lin Feng was resolute. Holy monarch Yingying's sexy lips parted slightly. She was about to say that she could not let Lin Feng bargain this time, but she did not expect Lin Feng to agree without even thinking about it. Holy monarch Yingying's sexy red lips pouted slightly as she stared at Lin Feng. "Did I cheat you again? It's hard to find a treasure even with 1,000 gold coins." Lin Feng said softly, "To me, this dark magic saber is priceless, but to other martial artists, it might not be worth 4,500 origin beads. Although normal peak high-grade chaos dark treasures were rare, they were usually priced around 3,000 origin beads. Dark-type treasures were slightly more expensive. After all, many powerful demon race experts could comprehend dark-type laws. Dark-type sabers had a large audience. Okay. Holy monarch Yingying was helpless. She could not slap herself in the face with the agreed price. After all, she was a super expert on the Milky Way King Sage list. If news of this spread, she would become a laughingstock. Besides, Lin Feng was right. Treasures depended on the person. 4,500 origin beads was indeed a fair price. By the way, Holy Monarch Yingying, the 100 Saints Martial King asked me to sell a treasure, Lin Feng said after pondering for a moment. The 100 Saints Martial King? Holy Monarch Yingying was stunned as she looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng took out the 100 Saints Martial Hall token. Holy Monarch Yingying could not help but smile. So, young Master Lin is from the 100 Saints Martial Hall. Seeing is believing. No wonder the 100 Saints Martial Hall is the strongest force in the Donghuang Empire to be able to cultivate a genius like young Master Lin. What treasure does the 100 Saints Martial King want to sell? Holy Monarch Yingying asked curiously. The 100 Saints Martial King was the strongest Saint King in the Donghuang Empire, Wu Shen. He was also the person with the highest authority in the 100 Saints Martial Hall. 3 illusory beads. Lin Feng's eyes shone, and 3 rays of light rose from his hand in a split second. 3 white crystals suddenly appeared, quietly lying in Lin Feng's palm. Each of them was so strange and so beautiful. Holy Monarch Yingying was stunned. These were the national treasures of the Tianhuan Empire. Back then, the 9 Saint Kings Huan had been devoured by death. None of them had escaped, and the whereabouts of the 9 illusory beads were unknown. The Tianhuan Empire had suffered a great loss. 3 years ago, the first bead had appeared. Now, 3 beads had appeared all of a sudden. Where did you get them? Holy Monarch Yingying asked excitedly, her eyes shining. The 100 Saints Martial King just got them not long ago. Lin Feng apologized in his heart, but he had used Wu Shen. Cha Mu had warned him before that he had to be careful when selling the illusory bead. After all, they were too valuable. He had no choice but to use his backer. No matter what, he was a member of the 100 Saints Martial Hall. It was not too much. Just got them in the secret realm of death? Holy Monarch Yingying's eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible. How could the illusory beads be in the secret realm of death? Weren't they devoured by the death whirlpool? Could it be that the secret realm of death is connected to the death whirlpool? Yes, that's very likely. Lin Feng looked at Holy Monarch Yingying quietly. The more he said, the more mistakes he would make. He would not say anything else. If not for the black hell soul-severing saber, he would not have needed to use these illusory beads immediately. However, since he had used the Wu Shen's name, He might as well sell more at once. Lin Feng could see the desire and excitement in Holy Monarch Ying Ying's eyes. To the Tianhuan Empire, the illusory beads were truly priceless treasures, just like the Black Hell soul-severing saber. 3 beads for 20,000 origin beads. After deducting the 4,500 origin beads from the Black Hell soul-severing saber and the dozens of fruits of heaven and earth, Lin Feng's net profit was over 13,000 origin bead. Seeing Holy Monarch Ying Ying's excited expression, Lin Feng smiled. This was a deal that would only benefit everyone. The 100 Saints Martial King's name is really useful. Lin Feng smiled, put away the Black Hell soul-severing saber, and left. Chapter 1404. The heaven and earth fruits here are really expensive. Lin Feng spent another 5,000 origin beads as he strolled around. Compared to the origin bead star in the 2nd district, the heaven and earth fruits in the 3rd district were much more expensive. The types were more complicated, and many of them were very rare. Lin Feng did not care and bought them first. It was much more than he expected. Unlike the 2nd district, many of the treasures in the 3rd district were concentrated in small alliances, just like Saint King Ying Ying and the rest. Even if I don't buy the Black Hell soul-severing saber, I should at least sell one illusory one bead. Lin Feng did not feel the pinch when spending money now. Although he bought a bunch of heaven and earth fruits, he still had 15,000 origin beads, which was quite ample. Moreover, most of the 15,000 origin beads were of the light, dark, and earth elements, and some of them were of the lightning element. Currently, he mainly focused on the light and dark elements, while the earth element origin beads were prepared for the tyrant dragon clone. I've gained quite a lot. Lin Feng smiled. Then, he found a quiet place to eat the heaven and earth fruit. The origin bead star was very big, and there were even more empty spaces. The experts of the 7 great empires had gathered, and many of them had settled down in the elemental pearl star. A few great alliances controlled this region, and they forbade fighting and killing. Although they couldn't do anything about it if a fight really broke out, it wasn't worth it to offend those great alliances. For example, Saint King Ying Ying and the rest. Saint King Ying Ying was a super powerhouse on the Milky Way Saint King ranking, ranked 79th. Ordinary upper-level saints could not even last one move in front of her. Not to mention, in the origin bead star, there were people stronger than Saint King Ying Ying. Gulp. Lin Feng swallowed the heaven and earth fruit bite by bite. Every heaven and earth fruit here was very powerful. You got what you paid for, unlike the 2nd district. Although there were few of them, the quality was outstanding. Many Saint King powerhouses would also buy the heaven and earth fruit that improved their physical fitness, but they basically bought it in the 2nd district. After all, it was cheap, and the cumulative effect was quite good. However, there were very few who could spend a lot like Lin Feng and buy it in large quantities. In the 2nd district, Lin Feng's physical fitness increased by 25%, and he only spent 2,000 origin bead. 5,000 origin beads here, and it only increased. It barely exceeded 50%. There were also light elemental, darkness elemental, thunder elemental, and earth elemental heaven and earth fruit. They were basically used to increase one's origin energy and to comprehend nomological energy. Lin Feng didn't consume them immediately. After all, they weren't very useful for the time being. Another 50% or so and my body will be full. Reaching the limit of dark matter expert. Lin Feng was looking forward to it. During this period of time, he had also chatted with Holy King Ying Ying and learned a lot about the secret realm of death. Not long after he arrived, the secret realm of death opened. It was too late to rush over now, so Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry. It wouldn't be too late to act after observing the situation. In any case, I'm here to gain experience. Obtaining treasures is secondary. Lin Feng was in no hurry. He then took out the Hell Soul-Severing Saber. Dense dark magic wrapped around the pitch-black saber, making it extraordinarily powerful. Lin Feng brandished his blade. The dark devil chi was incomparably dense. Previously, my strength was already extremely close to that of a 7-star upper saint even without spatial energy. Lin Feng brandished his saber again and again. The dark magic in his blood-red eyes was even more astonishing. He could clearly feel the pulse of the hell soul-severing saber. His heart was connected to it. As he brandished his saber, he fully displayed the power of the laws. Now that my body has improved by more than 50% and is compatible with so many treasures, I'm already a 7-star upper saint. Once I'm compatible with the hell soul-severing saber perfectly, my combat strength will increase again. If I release spatial energy, it will be even more difficult to estimate. Chi. Lin Feng brandished his saber again. The black aura enveloped him, as if he had turned into a demon. Outside the elemental bead star, a group of Golden Lion sect experts, led by the white-haired elder and the red-haired elder, were waiting. At this moment, their brows were tightly knitted, and their expressions were not very good. Damn it, he still hasn't come out. The white-haired elder was a little anxious. They had arrived early in the morning and were waiting here. Who would have thought that Lin Feng would stay in the Origin Pearl Star and not come out, making them wait here for half a year? It was depressing. If he doesn't come out, we'll kill our way in, a sinister-looking upper saint said viciously. Idiot! The white-haired elder scolded. If you don't want to live, then go in and try. Let's see if you die faster than Lin Feng. In front of them was a forbidden area. Not to mention them, even the Golden Lion Sage King did not dare to act rashly. Some people could not be offended. The white-haired elder held a high position in the Golden Lion sect. What's the hurry? He can't escape. The red-haired elder's bumpy face revealed a fierce look. His strength was close to that of a 7-star upper saint. The other saints around him were all in awe. The red-haired elder's strength was comparable to the 4 divine emissaries. He'll die when he comes out. The red-haired elder's eyes were filled with killing intent. Lin Feng did not expect it to take more than half a year just to merge. He did not even have time to check the other 2 items, especially the beast-taming bead necklace. The 3 beads were sealed with energy and had a strange color. Dark prison soul severing saber. The black saber in Lin Feng's hand lit up with blood-red lines that looked like human blood vessels. Perfect 100% compatibility. The black hell soul severing saber is several times more powerful than the 7 blue saber, even though they both have the same saber heart. As Lin Feng performed the Thunder Beast saber technique, his comprehension deepened. Senior sister said that a saber that is compatible with me will have a better comprehension of the saber heart. Lin Feng had a faint feeling of the saber heart's path. From the 12 saber heart to the minute subtlety, it was within reach. Even if it was the limit of the saber heart, the end of the great Tao could be vaguely seen. A full year and a half. Lin Feng did nothing but practice the saber. He needed to adapt to the new saber. If he did not find the right feeling, it would be difficult to exert 100% of his combat power. Lin Feng set a goal for himself to upgrade the saber heart from the 12 saber heart to the minute subtlety. If he could upgrade the saber heart, he must have really adapted. Phew! Lin Feng breathed a sigh of relief. The blood-red demonic light in his eyes slowly disappeared. Although I can't learn the 3rd move of the Lightning Beast Saber technique and the 2nd power of the Dark Prison Soul Severing Saber, but it's enough. It was time to leave. There was no end to the path of cultivation. It was impossible to achieve it overnight. Lin Feng put away the Black Hell Soul Severing Saber, and a bright light flashed in his eyes. The increase in his strength made him more confident about the upcoming adventure. Finally, I'm going to fight with the top experts in the Milky Way. Immortal Chaos Whole. The blood in Lin Feng's body was burning. He longed for a challenge. He longed for the feeling of fighting with experts. Chapter 1405. Whoosh space shook, and Lin Feng appeared outside the Origin Pearl Star. He was very calm, and his eyes were indifferent. He stood there quietly as if he was waiting for something. Early on in the Origin Pearl Star, Lin Feng had already noticed that he was being monitored. However, the other party didn't know that his perception wasn't just capable of sensing auras, it was even capable of clearly sensing the other party's appearance, figure, and clothes. The Golden Lion sect. They had been patiently waiting for him for the past year and a half. Lin Feng would not back down. Otherwise, wouldn't he be letting them down? 15 upper-level saints, 2 of them are relatively strong. Within Lin Feng's perception range, he could clearly sense the Golden Lion sect's experts approaching him. They were here. Let's practice the saber. The corners of Lin Feng's mouth lifted slightly. He was full of confidence. He did not dare to say that he was afraid of Saint Kings, but upper-level saints, even if they were 7-star upper-level saints, he was not afraid at all. In the current saint realm, he was the strongest amongst all the saints. Clang! The soul-severing saber fell into his hand, and the 12 levels of saber heart appeared. Lin Feng's eyes were instantly filled with blood, and a fierce light shot out from his eyes as if he had become a ferocious demon. However, this was only because he was compatible with the saber and controlled by the dark demon law. Even without the 10,000 origin mustard stone to protect his soul, Lin Feng could perfectly control this peak chaos dark treasure with his willpower. He had opened 4 apertures in his heaven ho cultivation. He was a black hole level realm cultivator. Sizzle sizzle, the soul-severing black saber in his hand had blood-colored veins. The entire saber was wrapped in black fog, as if a demon had just awakened. That was the spirit of the dark devil, a devil from hell. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The space in front of him shook. Lin Feng did not appear, but the aura of the dark demon law had already arrived. Even a casual swing of the saber had the attack power of a 4-star upper-level saint. Chi. Blood splattered, and there were no screams. The 3 upper-level saints of the Golden Lion sect who had just teleported over were swallowed by the endless darkness. At this moment, the surrounding space was shaking as the other upper saints arrived one after another. Lin Feng didn't hesitate at all and directly charged towards the 2 superior saints with the strongest auras. "You're courting death." It was an old man with a head full of white hair. His bright eyes were filled with ferocious killing intent. Endless gales spread out from his body as he released his chaotic whole treasure. The white-haired elder. His battle strength was between a 6-star upper saint and a 7-star upper saint. With a roar, the bloodline in his entire body erupted. His body turned ethereal like the wind, and his astonishing law of wind even contained traces of yang energy. Not only had the white-haired elder reached small perfection in the law of wind, but his law of yang had also reached large perfection. In terms of battle strength, he was second only to the red-haired elder among the Golden Lion cult's 7 grand elders. The entire space was enveloped by the gray wind. Its masculine aura was extremely destructive, causing the law of wind's attack power to increase to the maximum. The Golden Lion cult's experts looked over at Huang Xiaolong with a knowing smile. They had seen the white-haired elder perform this ultimate move countless times, and he had never failed. The Golden Lion cult's 7th elder was not only famous in the Donghuang Empire, but also in the 7 great empires. How could there be an accident this time? While the experts of the Golden Lion cult were thinking about this, a terrifying black aura suddenly spread out. The gray wind enveloped the area, but it was soon invaded by the black aura. It started from a little bit, then a part of it, and in an instant it spread to the whole area. The dark aura completely covered the wind aura, as if the entire gray cloth was dyed black. No way! This is impossible! In an instant, screams rang out. The experts of the Golden Lion cult widened their eyes as if they were suffocating. That was the white-haired elder's voice. It was incomparably mournful, as if his soul was being taken away. It was so terrifying. Swoosh, swoosh. Everyone's hair stood on end as they trembled with fear. Even the white-haired elder was no match for Lin Feng? Big brother! In the distance, the red-haired elder's voice was hysterical. All the hair on his body stood up, and his ugly face was ferocious. The red-haired elder had arrived very quickly, but he did not expect the white-haired elder to be severely injured in just one attack. Lin Feng's saber was fast and terrifying. Rip! The ferocious black hell demon bit the white-haired elder. His entire body was wrapped in endless darkness, and the terrifying dark demonic aura invaded the white-haired elder's body, making it difficult for his wounds to heal. The first ability of the black hell soul severing saber, Devour. This was not an ordinary saber, but a peak high-grade chaos whole dark treasure. How could it be ordinary? Its attack carried the law of Dark Demon, and it pushed Lin Feng's law of Dark Demon, which was at small success, to the power of large success. Its ability, Devour, was extremely terrifying. As long as the skin was broken a little, the black hell demon in the saber would appear and devour the enemy. The black hell demon in its intangible form was extremely difficult to kill. While devouring, it would also affect one's mind. This was the characteristic of the law of Dark Demon. Warriors who cultivated the law of Dark Demon would be devoured by the black hell demon, not to mention being attacked by the law of Dark Demon. Whoosh! Lin Feng had already sensed the red-haired elder's presence. Previously, he had to rely on spatial energy to defeat them, but now, he no longer needed to. His current combat strength had long surpassed that of a 7-star superior saint. If there was a higher level, it would be an 8-star superior saint. Thunder Beast Saber Technique, First Strike. Lin Feng attacked with his saber. He did not give the red-haired elder any chance. With Lin Feng's current saber technique realm, physique, and power of the black hell soul severing saber, it was worlds apart from the past. It was like an ordinary warrior using a saber technique and a saber expert using a saber technique. Roar! The red-haired elder roared angrily, revealing his entire body. His thick tail swept across, and his red hair burned like flames. He bared his fangs, and his scarlet claws condensed a terrifying cold light as he attacked Lin Feng. The red-haired elder had absolute confidence in his own strength. In his opinion, a mere 6-star superior saint was the limit for a human youth. However, seeing that the white-haired elder was severely injured, the red-haired elder felt an inexplicable fear, but he could not figure it out. His confidence was wavering. The red-haired elder's attack was also somewhat hesitant. However, even if he gave it his all, the result would not be different. Boom! Lin Feng's blade art was profound. In the void, the thunder unicorn seemed to have turned into a dark demon. It suddenly showed its lofty appearance, and its eyes were about to crack. The pitch-black blade with red blood veins madly hacked towards the red-haired elder. Its aura pierced through the sky. How can he be so powerful? The red-haired elder widened his eyes and all his bones cracked. The terrifying saber energy completely suppressed him. One move was like a mountain crushing down on him, and his combat strength was almost destroyed. His previous frenzied killing intent was instantly replaced by fear. It was too terrifying. I don't want to die. The red-haired elder was hysterical, and his eyes were filled with fear and indignation. However, the result was already decided. Chapter 1406. Kill. The Yao clan and the Demon clan were better at close combat. Strength was everything. When they collided with Lin Feng, they died even faster. There was no room for negotiation. Therefore, even though the red-haired elder was stronger than the white-haired elder, it didn't make much of a difference to Lin Feng. The red-haired elder was simply courting death in a head-on battle. The red-haired elder's crimson hair was quickly torn apart by a pitch-black mass. His shrill shriek terrified the other saints of the Golden Lion sect. That young man named Lin Feng was as terrifying as a devil. Run! Run! The upper-level saints who had survived until now were not easy to deal with. If they didn't run now, when would they? But from the moment they decided to carry out their plan, another 2 upper-level saints were killed. Lin Feng's movements were too fast. He had already begun to snipe the red-haired elder the moment he killed him. Of the 15 upper-level saints who participated in the encirclement, only 8 remained. In a split second, it was as if fireworks had exploded and scattered in all directions. Last time Lin Feng was like this. He couldn't chase after them. After all, they were too far apart. They were all saints, and their teleportation distance was the same. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't catch up. But this time, it was different. Great Space Shift. Lin Feng used his trump card. Great Space Shift's distance was the same as teleportation, 1,000th of a light year. However, unlike spatial teleportation, greater spatial teleportation had a much wider range of use. It could shift one's position, and it could also shift one's position. In addition to its range, Great Space Shift's distance was much greater than teleportation. This was the key. Complete suppression. Swoosh. The space ahead shook. An upper-level saint of the Golden Lion sect gritted his teeth and ran. Suddenly, he was stunned. Just as he teleported, his vision blurred. He saw an unexpected figure. Black armor, blood-red eyes, a demon-like saber, and monstrous killing intent. Impossible! The upper-level saint was dumbfounded. He didn't expect to see this demon as soon as he teleported. He didn't have time to react. A cold black light flashed past his eyes, and he was killed instantly. Second, the third one. Lin Feng killed 4 upper-level saints in the blink of an eye. Their eyes were filled with shock before they died, and they didn't know what had happened until they died. They had clearly escaped. The remaining 4 upper-level saints fled much faster, but no matter how fast they were, they couldn't outrun Lin Feng. Spatial teleportation and greater spatial teleportation. Lin Feng's proficiency directly doubled the speed of his spatial teleportation. Like a cat catching a mouse, it did not take long for all 4 mice to be killed. At this point, all 15 upper-level saints had been captured. Not a single one was left. After today's battle, the enmity between me and the Golden Lion sect has deepened. We won't stop until one of us is dead. Lin Feng was clear that even if he was willing to compromise, the Golden Lion sect wouldn't. However, he didn't care about offending the Fire Golden Lion sect. There were only 5 of them who were Holy Kings. Only the Golden Lion Holy King, who was the strongest among them, was listed on the Milky Way Holy King list. Now, he was only slightly weaker than the Golden Lion Holy King, and the gap between them would only get smaller and smaller. As for the other 4 oracles, they weren't listed on the Milky Way Holy King list, so what was there to be afraid of? They were all Holy Kings, but there was a huge gap between immortal chaos holes. I wonder what my current strength would rank me on the Milky Way Holy King list. Lin Feng was curious. There were 288 experts listed on the Milky Way Holy King list, including 10 7-star saints. Among these 10, the highest-ranked one was 207th. I should be in the top 200 at least. Lin Feng thought to himself. This was the strength without using spatial energy. If he used all his strength, he was confident that he could rank in the middle of the Milky Way Holy King list. However, he would only be in the middle. After all, the difference in the comprehension of laws was too great. Moreover, the immortal chaos holes had immortal bodies, so their combat strength was quite strong. It's a pity that I haven't comprehended the second ability of the Black Hell Soul Severing Blade, Soul Severing. Lin Feng held the battle blade in his hand that was filled with dark demon aura. The tendons that protruded like blood vessels were terrifying, and its power was top-notch. The second ability, Soul Severing, existed only for immortal chaos holes. Once I fully master the ability, Soul Severing, the immortal body of an immortal chaos hole will be useless to me. I'll think about it later. Let's enter the 4th area first. The Secret Realm of Death. Lin Feng's eyes were burning and his blood was boiling. He headed to the 4th area. Lin Feng knew the general direction. He had asked Holy King Ying before, and she had gone to the secret realm of death before him. Lin Feng knew that she was most likely going for the illusory bead. This was the national treasure of the Tianhuan Empire. Holy King Ying would not sit still once she discovered its whereabout. However, he did not have to worry about her strength. She was ranked 79th on the Milky Way Holy King list, so she was much stronger than him. It's just ahead. Lin Feng quickly sensed it. After passing through a colorful world, he stopped breathing and came to a whole new world. The surrounding pressure was extremely heavy, suffocating, and the tearing force of the black hole was constantly present. Ordinary holy kings would find it difficult to survive here. This was the fourth area, the deepest part of the ancient myriad world secret realm. The tearing force of the black hole was as high as 10%. Cu's black armor flickered slightly as the black vortex absorbed the spatial energy. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Coming here was like coming to the death-devouring vortex. I wonder where the secret realm of death is? Lin Feng looked around but could not find any clues. Suddenly, 3 figures appeared in the range of his perception. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. With people here, things would be much easier. Let's go. Let's go. As soon as Lin Feng approached, he saw 3 panicked faces. The holy kings seemed to have seen something terrifying and hurriedly fled. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Lin Feng did not have time to ask before the 3 figures disappeared. Oh! Lin Feng's curiosity was piqued by this clear perception. Although he was unable to ask about the way to the secret realm of death, under normal circumstances, the 3 Saint Kings should have fled in the opposite direction. Whoosh! Lin Feng disappeared. The secret realm of death was like a giant beast lying in the center of the Milky Way super black hole. It had stood there for countless eras and was a wonder of the 4th area. The secrets within were even more tempting. At this moment, small vortexes appeared around the secret realm of death, as if they were devouring the space. Looking closer, the secret realm of death was emitting spots of light. It was very strange. Hua! Hua! At the entrance of the secret realm of death, at the barrier that was destroyed by the holy kings, figures appeared one after another. They were as panicked, scared, and nervous as the 3 holy kings. As soon as they came out of the secret realm of death, they hurriedly left without stopping. Oh! Lin Feng, who had just arrived, saw this strange scene and his eyes lit up. Was he too late? Chapter 1407. Whoosh! Lin Feng's figure suddenly flashed and blocked the path of a Saint King who was running away in a hurry. The latter was still a little flustered and was stunned when he saw Lin Feng. Senior. Lin Feng was the first to greet him. Why are you running away? Why should I tell you? Saint Kings had extremely strong egos, especially in front of a saint like Lin Feng. Naturally, they would feel disdain. Suddenly, he teleported away. Compared to a saint who could teleport 1,000th of a light year, a Saint King could teleport 100th of a light year each time. It was much faster. Lin Feng was helpless, but he couldn't force the other party to tell him if he didn't want to. Instead, he was even more curious. Just what could make a mighty saint ruler so flustered, to the point of fleeing so quickly? Looking at the behemoth-like secret realm of death in the distance, Lin Feng was lost in thought. He waited patiently for a while. There weren't many Saint Kings who escaped, only 7 or 8. It seems that something happened just now. Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry. He was already late, so it didn't matter if he was a few months late. The secret realm of death was more mysterious than he thought. After waiting for a few days and seeing that no more Saint Kings came out, Lin Feng slowly approached. The small vortexes around him were mixed with strange energy. They didn't come from the Milky Way super black hole, but from the secret realm of death itself. Just like the black vortex in his bloodline, it absorbed the spatial tearing force of the Milky Way super black hole. That's why it can stand in the 4th zone. Lin Feng thought. The secret realm of death was like a suit of armor that could resist the tearing force of the Milky Way super black hole. As the secret realm of death flashed, the absorption of the small vortexes increased. Lin Feng approached again. He used his perception to explore, but an invisible energy blocked his perception, making it difficult for him to enter the secret realm of death. Lin Feng was a little surprised. His perception could travel freely in the Milky Way super black hole. What a strange place, Lin Feng muttered. A bright light appeared in front of his eyes, spinning slowly like a windmill. He had entered a new world, and there seemed to be something in the faint halo that was attracting him. It was like a passageway or a connection to the outside world. The saint rulers from before had escaped through this tunnel. Therefore, you can enter from here. Lin Feng glanced at the imperial black armor on his body. With this top-grade defensive treasure on him, it greatly increased his body's defense and boosted his confidence. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Lin Feng, who had been observing for several days, clearly knew that if he wanted to explore the secrets of this mysterious secret realm of death, he had to try it himself. There was nothing to be afraid of. If a saint ruler could escape, it meant that they could at least survive inside. As soon as he thought of this, Lin Feng immediately entered. As expected, Lin Feng entered the milky white windmill passage almost effortlessly. His entire body moved along the white passage as the windmill spun. In an instant, the scene before his eyes changed. It was as if he was sitting on a ladder. His eyes lit up. What entered his sight was a clear blue sky with thick layers of clouds floating in the sky. The fresh and natural spiritual energy of heaven and earth gave him an extremely comfortable feeling. Lin Feng was slightly surprised. This was unexpected. Was this the rumored secret realm of death where there was no chance of survival? There was no bloody and murderous aura, nor was there any sense of death or fear. Also, didn't those saint rulers escape just now? Thinking of this, Lin Feng immediately felt many doubts in his heart. Judging from the expressions of those saint rulers, it was obvious that they had encountered extreme danger. That was why they had fled. But where was the danger? Lin Feng swept his gaze across and couldn't see anything special. The only special thing might be that the spiritual energy of heaven and earth here was much denser than the outside world. However, this was not unfamiliar to him. There was also such a secret realm in the first district, Yingling Cliff. These secret realms were all swallowed by the Milky Way super black hole from the outside world. Generally, the energy of stars that were exposed to the outside world had been completely absorbed. Only the secret realms that were sealed and concealed still had residual spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Lin Feng slowly stepped on this land. The more unknown it was, the more careful he had to be. He could now release his senses. Although there were still some obstructions, it was normal. In the Milky Way super black hole, one's senses would also be obstructed. This was because the energy was beyond one's capacity. Lin Feng was very cautious. The more beautiful and colorful the flower, the more likely it was to have thorns. Oh! Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. He caught a glimpse of a huge purple tree in front of him. It was full of all kinds of fruits of heaven and earth. The emerald green color was plump and full. Every emerald green fruit was condensed with a thick layer of energy film. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth was incomparably abundant. Plucking one, Lin Feng directly took a bite. In an instant, the sweetness went straight to his heart. The warm jade-like energy flowed through his body. His body couldn't hide the comfort. His whole body quivered. In an instant, his skin changed sharply. Abundant energy flowed into his body, and his body rapidly strengthened and improved. One fruit and I improved by nearly 1%? Lin Feng was surprised and delighted. Now, it was difficult to improve his physical fitness by even 0.1%, let alone nearly 1%. This was almost comparable to the best fruits of heaven and earth in the third region's elemental pearl star. But in the elemental pearl star, He basically only bought 1 or 2 fruits. Here? Even if there aren't 100, there are at least 70 or 80. Lin Feng took a deep breath. His intuition was shocked. Instantly, it turned into great joy. He activated his realm power and directly plucked all the emerald green fruit. Although the effect gradually decreased, it couldn't withstand the large quantity. Lin Feng swallowed dozens of fruits in one breath. He only stopped when his body was completely saturated. Accumulating, it improved by about 5%. Lin Feng stretched and was very satisfied. He was full of energy. The strengthening of his physical fitness had increased by 57% and was getting closer and closer to 100%. There must be more than one fruits of heaven and earth like this. The secret realm of death is indeed the most mysterious and strongest secret realm in the myriad world's secret realms. Lin Feng sighed. He had such a harvest in less than a moment after entering. If the nearly 100 emerald green fruits were to be sold outside, it would be worth at least a few thousand elemental pearls. If there was a first, there would be a second. Lin Feng was looking forward to it. In this area where spiritual energy was abundant, it wasn't strange for such a fruits of heaven and earth to be born. Walking around, Lin Feng observed the secret realm of death's area and situation. His perception never stopped. There was no smoke without fire. There must be danger here. He hadn't encountered it yet. He was just lucky. But his luck wouldn't last forever. As expected, it's here. Lin Feng's perception was very clear. In an instant, his body trembled and his pupils dilated. Chapter 1408. It was a group of weird-looking birdmen. No, they were demons with fleshy wings on their backs, but they looked almost the same as humans, except that their bodies were much stronger. The leader was a 4-winged birdman, and behind him were 10 2-winged birdmen. What a powerful aura! Lin Feng was secretly shocked. The 4-winged birdman was an immortal chaos hole, and even the 10 2-winged birdmen were dark matter powerhouses. Lin Feng was not afraid of dark matter powerhouses, but the immortal chaos hole was not ordinary. Although it looked inconspicuous, Lin Feng's intuition told him that the 4-winged birdman was not weaker than him. They should be the life forms in the secret realm of death. Lin Feng thought to himself. This star sealed in the secret realm of 10,000 worlds had a unique aura of life. He had never heard of such a birdman in the Milky Way. It's not just these. Lin Feng knew very well that what he saw was only the tip of the iceberg. Otherwise, those Saint Kings would not have fled in fear. There must be something stronger than this. Thump! Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. In his perception, the 4-winged birdman seemed to have sensed his spying. It roared loudly and flew toward him in an instant. The flapping of its wings had a faint rhythm of space. Run! Lin Feng reacted instantly. There was no need to fight with the 4-winged birdman head-on, especially since he had just entered and did not know anything. He should first familiarize himself with the surroundings. Lin Feng was about to teleport away when suddenly, buzz, buzz, layers of ripples appeared in the surrounding space. Lin Feng's expression suddenly changed. The space was unstable and teleportation was difficult. Spatial teleportation required the space to be stable. If the space was not stable, how could the teleportation be connected? It was as if a person was about to step into a teleportation gate. If the portal kept shaking left and right, it would be impossible to enter. Ow! An ear-piercing sound exploded in his ears. Just this sound alone was enough to make people tremble. Lin Feng immediately understood that the 4-winged birdman was the one causing the space to fluctuate. It could interfere with space. The huge figure in front of him quickly appeared. The 4 pairs of wings were like 4 sharp blades breaking through the air. The shrill sound caused the space to tremble, as if 4 battle blades were slashing at him. Behind this 4-winged birdman, 10 2-winged birdmen also let out high-pitched cries and swooped down to attack. In an instant, Lin Feng was in a precarious situation. Schwa! Since he could not escape, Lin Feng was not afraid. The soul-severing saber appeared in his hand. Blood-colored veins appeared on the pitch-black saber as the lightning unicorn moved. Thunder Beast Blade Technique. Blade against claw. Blade against wing. Lin Feng instantly exchanged several blows with the four-winged birdman. His arm trembled and fell, and he retreated slightly. The four-winged birdman was also not in a good state. It roared angrily, and its eyes were sharp and sharp. It was clearly an intelligent life form. Pung! The man and birdman separated in an instant. However, the 10 two-winged birdmen attacked from behind. They attacked like a storm, not giving Lin Feng any time to breathe. However, Lin Feng was experienced, so how could he not be prepared? Light flashed in his hand, and suddenly 12 strange ancient wheels appeared. They were connected together, and suddenly they exploded with a bang. It was as if 12 auspicious lights had appeared. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. Top-grade, high-grade chaos, profound treasure, sunglow burial wheel. Chi. 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 The 12 rays of light were like 12 Lin Feng attacking. The most difficult part of the sunglow burial wheel was not to comprehend the laws, but to control the 12 sunglow burial wheel. However, to Lin Feng, who had reached the black hole realm as a realm force cultivator, not to mention 12, even 24 or 36, he could perfectly control them. Using the weapon to control them, Lin Feng instantly gained some time to breathe. At this moment, the four-winged birdman was even more furious. Its huge wings flapped fiercely, causing the sunglow burial wheel's attack to become chaotic. The space shook violently. What terrifying power! In Lin Feng's bloodline, the black whirlpool was absorbing the space energy. Previously, he was not sure what was special about the four-winged birdman's attack, but now he was sure that it was a monster that was extremely similar to the space-swallowing beast. They could control space energy. They could even use space energy to trigger space laws. Moreover, the four-winged birdmen were extremely strong. Although they were not as proficient in strength as the demons, their strength was not inferior. Lin Feng knew that his strength was comparable to the strongest human chaos whole immortal. However, in front of the four-winged birdman, he could not gain any advantage. Strong bodies, controlling space energy. Their wings allowed them to not only fly, but they were also very good at short-range teleportation and jumping. Their close combat ability was quite outstanding. Not only were the four-winged birdmen comparable to the experts on the Milky Way King Saint list, but the two-winged birdmen were also at the level of a 4-star upper saint. This was the life form of the secret realm of death. A unique and powerful life form. Impressive. Lin Feng was not afraid. Instead, he laughed. His fighting spirit was even higher. Facing the four-winged birdman attacking him, his fighting spirit was soaring. At this moment, he vaguely understood why the Saint Kings were fleeing in fear. There must be an existence stronger than the four-winged birdman. Just the four-winged birdman alone could seal space teleportation. How terrifying would a life form stronger than it be? Since they could not defeat it and could not teleport away, the Saint Kings did not dare to advance. Boom! Lin Feng used the Thunder Beast Blade technique and clashed with the four-winged birdman again. This time, the four-winged birdman's attack was sharper than before. Its 4 bird claws were extremely sharp, like 4 sharp knives stabbing out continuously. Its control of its body was not inferior to a human's. Moreover, other than teleportation, the wings on its back could also secretly attack. In terms of physical conditions, it was even better than a human's. Awesome! Lin Feng was not afraid of the wounds on his body. His fighting spirit was at its peak. His strong physical body increased the defensive ability of the Imperial Black Armor by another level. Although he did not use space energy, his current combat power was already comparable to the experts on the Milky Way King Saint list. Indeed, he was at a disadvantage. However, it was not that easy for the four-winged birdman to gain the upper hand. Boom! Lin Feng was once again pushed back. However, his eyes flashed. The soul-severing black hell saber in his hand drew two sharp arcs and killed two-winged birdmen. His body moved again, and the sunglow wheel turned into rays of white light and blasted towards the four-winged birdman like cannonballs. In an instant, the four-winged birdman's movements were hindered. Chi! 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 Lin Feng's movements were clean. There was no extra movement. While the two-winged birdmen were still in shock, the white light wheel that attacked them suddenly disappeared. In an instant, a cold light flashed past. Boom! Boom! Blood splattered everywhere. The soul-severing black hell saber directly swallowed the group of two-winged birdmen. A total of 10 birdmen died in an instant. The four-winged birdman's attack had arrived. Its bloody eyes roared, mournful and angry. Chapter 1409. Boom! Lin Feng's chest suffered a heavy blow, but the imperial black armor absorbed the majority of the attack. Pooh! Spitting out a mouthful of blood, Lin Feng's face turned slightly pale, but the corner of his mouth drew an arc. The blood-red pupils in his eyes became even denser as the dark demonic power engulfed his entire body. Previously, he was outnumbered when fighting against 11. But now, in a one-on-one battle, he had complete confidence. Come! Lin Feng became more and more courageous as he fought. His falling figure staggered slightly, but his right foot suddenly stomped on the ground and shot out like a spring. The black hell soul severing blade condensed an intense black aura that wrapped around Lin Feng's body, causing Lin Feng's aura to become even more ruthless. Decisive killing intent. Lin Feng had always been strong when facing strong opponents. Peng! When they collided head-on, Lin Feng's strength suddenly increased explosively. His fighting spirit and aura completely suppressed the four-winged birdman. Although the latter felt grief and indignation because of his companion's death, a large part of it was also afraid. But it was covered by the anger. But now, his aura was suppressed and negative emotions swept over. The more the four-winged birdman fought, the more frightened he became. Under Lin Feng's thunderous attacks, blade after blade, his sturdy body was bombarded until it was dripping with blood. With a mournful cry, the entire space shook. Lin Feng's body fiercely shook, the space seemed to be distorted, as if there was a strangling power twisting his body. Hiss! The black vortex in his body swallowed, Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. Knowing that the four-winged birdman was already at the end of its road, it could only stubbornly resist. His blade technique was even more decisive. The sunglow burial wheel drew 12 arcs of light, constantly harassing and attacking the four-winged birdman, causing it to be distracted. In a one-on-one battle, Lin Feng's strength was still quite strong. Boom! The black hell soul severing blade shattered the four-winged birdman's body, and the black hell demon directly swallowed it. The four-winged birdman let out a miserable shriek. It was extremely miserable, and the clouds in the sky seemed to shake. Lin Feng frowned, and in the next moment, he directly ended the life of the four-winged birdman. It should be notifying its companions. Although Lin Feng didn't understand the language, he could more or less understand that the roar of grief and indignation contained strong emotions, unwillingness and deep hatred. Peng! The four-winged birdman's body exploded. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. What entered his eyes was a crystal core the size of an iron fist. It contained a rich spatial energy that was much stronger than the devouring origin pearl. Putting it away, Lin Feng's blade light instantly slashed through the bodies of 10 two-winged birdmen. Sure enough, every birdman's body had a crystal-like nucleus, but the two-winged birdman's crystal-like nucleus was much smaller, and its energy was also much weaker. Lin Feng put them all away and teleported away. He wasn't that stupid to wait for those birdmen's companions to take revenge. Not long after Lin Feng left, the clouds in the sky suddenly became dark, and the whole space shook violently. Countless birds covered the entire area. There were dozens of four-winged birdmen, and many of their auras were stronger than the four-winged birdman just now. The leader was a six-winged birdman with a terrifying aura. Its strength was equivalent to the Dark Region Master. Looking at the birdman corpses all over the ground, the birdman experts revealed furious expressions, especially the six-winged birdman in the lead. He was incomparably furious as he roared, causing the other birdman experts behind him to be filled with rage. The terrifying aura of the birdman caused the whole space to rumble and shake. At this time, Lin Feng had already escaped. Although he didn't see the six-winged birdman expert, he could more or less guess that someone who could make a Milky Way King Sage list expert afraid would not be slightly stronger than them. It must be an existence that far exceeded their strength level. Above the dark matter experts was the immortal Chaos Hole, and above that was the Dark Region Master. There shouldn't be anyone at teacher's level here, right? Lin Feng was skeptical. The tearing force of the Milky Way super black hole was indeed very strong, but many immortal chaos holes could resist it. As for the Dark Region Master, if he could control a dark region, he wouldn't care about the tearing force of the black hole. If that was the case, why did they stay here? Lin Feng couldn't figure it out. If there is such an expert, he should have left the Milky Way super black hole long ago. Lin Feng pondered for a moment, and then shook his head. There were too many unsolved mysteries, especially since he had only just seen the secret realm of death. Large areas of the land were still unexplored. I stayed in the Yuanzhu Star for a year and a half, so I should be late to enter. Lin Feng looked around, looking for traces of humans. Those warriors who had arrived earlier than him should have some understanding of this place. If he could find the experts of the Dongwang Empire or even the 100 Saints Martial Temple, maybe he could get some information from them. However, I still have to be very careful. Lin Feng was shocked. The battle just now seemed easy, but it was actually very dangerous. If those birdman experts were smarter and surrounded him to call for their companions, it would have been a different ending. To them we should be outsiders, so it's normal for them to be hostile. Now everyone is in a state of confusion. Lin Feng smiled. This feeling was very interesting. He had indeed come to the right place. Everything here was not only new and exciting, but also very challenging. I only hope that the awakening of the Milky Way super black hole will be a little later. Lin Feng explored and moved forward slowly. There were about 5 years left before the 100 years were up, and for a black hole level expert, 5 years was almost a blink of an eye. 5 years. Lin Feng shook his head. Whether or not they could explore a small part of the secret realm of death was still unknown. In a quiet mountain forest, whoosh, 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 4 figures were moving quickly. 1 man and 3 women, dressed very strangely. The man had sword-like eyebrows and blue hair. He wore a white robe with a white cloth tied around his head and white silk wrapped around his arms. The woman wore a white dress with a white hairband wrapped around her head. It was the standard attire of the experts of the Shinji Empire, one of the 7 great empires. This was an empire that believed in God. They worshipped gods and had firm belief. Unlike other empires, the Shinji Empire had a clear hierarchy and all resources were concentrated on cultivation. The son of Shinji, the saintess of the empire. Son of God, go quickly! The leader of the saintess of the empire was holding 2 cold short blades with a frosty face. We'll cover you. I'm the son of Shinji. How can I drag out an ignoble existence? The man looked righteous. An I Xian, take an I Jing and an I Ling and go. I'll hold them off. As he spoke, the sword in his hand bloomed with endless divine light, and a roaring giant divine venerable appeared in an instant. The 3 holy maidens were deeply moved by the blue-haired man's performance. An I Huan, who was in the lead, shot out a golden light from her jade-white hands and bound the blue-haired man's hands. The latter's expression immediately changed. An I Jing, an I Ling, take the Son of God and go. An I Xian raised her eyebrows, and there was a determined look in her eyes. In the sky above the mountain forest, the space vibrated continuously. It was a group of birdmen who were howling and chasing. Chapter 14:10. Oh! Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He had been exploring for a while, and this was the first time he felt a life aura from a martial artist from one of the 7 great empires. His perception was like a silent ripple, touching the space, and Lin Feng could clearly see 4 figures. God's Sacrifice Empire? Lin Feng was slightly surprised. The God's Sacrifice Empire's martial artists' attire was very distinctive, and could be recognized at a glance. Because of Chamu, although they met by chance, their friendship was not shallow, so Lin Feng had a good impression of the God's Sacrifice Empire. After a moment of hesitation, Lin Feng shot out like an arrow. There were many birdmen chasing after the 4, but there were only 3 4-winged birdmen that were a real threat. Basically, 1 4-winged birdman was leading 10 2-winged birdmen. If Lin Feng was alone, he would not provoke this group of birdmen. Once surrounded, it would be difficult to escape. But now with the help of other Saint Kings, it was a different story. The strongest among them, the white-robed woman's hand glowed with a golden light, and her delicate face turned pale. She bit the tip of her tongue, and her whole body instantly erupted with a powerful aura. Forbidden move. Lin Feng had heard a little about the God's Sacrifice Empire. It was a kind of secret skill, but it was driven by one's own blood. It meant to worship the gods and obtain power, and it could unleash a variety of powerful moves in a short period of time. It was quite extraordinary. In an instant, a violent wind blew, and the entire space seemed to be covered by this violent wind. The violent wind that filled the sky was like the wrath of a god. The roaring Arhat behind the white-robed woman was fierce, and its every move was fierce. In an instant there were endless screams. But only some of the 2-winged birdmen were killed. Although the 4-winged birdmen were dizzy and angry, they were not seriously injured. This forbidden move was more of a distraction than a killing move. With Enai Xian's distraction, on the other side, the Son of God's Sacrifice had safely retreated under the protection of the other 2 saintesses. In the God's Sacrifice Empire, the Son of God's Sacrifice Empire was supreme, and the saintesses were trained to serve the Son of God. Blood seeped out of the corner of her mouth. Enai Shue's eyebrows relaxed, her eyes filled with stubbornness. She knew her mission very well. She also knew what she had to do at the right time. Perhaps this was not what she wanted. However, she was chosen by the heavenly deity to serve the Son of God. She did not have the right to choose. If there's a next life, I want to be myself. Enai Hua's vitality was greatly damaged, and her eyes were filled with determination. Even if it's just becoming an insignificant civilian. Neon's will to live was weakening. She knew that she had bought enough time for the Divine Son to escape safely. Her mission had been completed. Just as he was about to lose all hope and seek death, a streak of darkness streaked across the sky and landed in the gale. It was a black figure with a saber in his hand. His aura was so imposing that it could cover the sky. In an instant, Enai Hu's originally dim eyes lit up. She was extremely surprised. This is amazing. Enai Hua was a little stunned. The strength that the black silhouette exploded out with was not stronger than her, but it perfectly used her restraint to quickly kill the 2-winged birdmen one after another. Very quickly, it killed the 4-winged birdmen. So, I'm not alone. Enai Hua's heart was filled with warmth. Although they had never met before, she had a good impression of the black silhouette. The light and hope in the midst of despair and death made her feel warm from the bottom of her heart. She was not alone. Enai Hua's frosty face turned even paler. But this time, her eyes were no longer filled with despair, but with hope. She did not want to die here like this, nor did she want the warrior who saved her to die because of her. Even if she had to exhaust all her strength, she would persevere until the end. Under Enai Hua's perfect control, Lin Feng's attack was able to erupt fully. Lin Feng's forte was his attack. His ferocious saber technique was not inferior to the four-winged birdman's body in the slightest. He was never afraid of close combat, especially since he had just fought with the four-winged birdman. He already had some experience with their attack method. Chi. The black dungeon demon tore at the four-winged birdman. Lin Feng instantly formed the Tai Chi True Dragon and trapped the other four-winged birdman. He knew that the white-robed woman would not be able to hold on for long. Especially restraining the four-winged birdman, it would consume a great deal of her energy. Take the strongest first. Risking injury, Lin Feng and the four-winged birdman engaged in a battle to the death. The three four-winged birdmen's strength were uneven. The strongest was slightly stronger than the previous four-winged birdman, but the weakest was not even half of the previous four-winged birdman. Lin Feng first heavily injured one, then quickly killed another. Finally, he faced the strongest four-winged birdman. He used all his strength. Thunder Beast Saber Technique. Lin Feng faced it head-on, and even suffered heavy injuries. After all, the Imperial Black Armor was not omnipotent, especially when the four-winged birdman's attacks contained a trace of space law. In terms of law level, the four-winged birdmen were abnormally powerful. A shrill roar resounded through the sky. Lin Feng, who had experienced a battle, clearly knew that the four-winged birdmen were calling for their companions. He could not help but smile in his heart. Every time, it would only call out when it was about to die. Lin Feng's heart stirred. He sensed that the white-robed woman was already on the verge of collapse. Her breathing was weak, and her beautiful eyes were dim. She was only holding on with her willpower. Let's go. Lin Feng did not want to continue fighting. Taking away the three four-winged birdmen's crystal-like pearls, the black hell soul severing saber in his hand was like Shura reborn. Endless darkness scattered, enveloping the entire area. In an instant, whoosh! Lin Feng streaked across a white light. Using the law of light, his body turned into a stream of light, sweeping past the darkness. He grabbed the white-robed woman, who had fainted on the ground with her eyes closed, and directly fled. On the other side, the two-winged birdmen shrouded in darkness roared endlessly. The space shook, and under the bombardment of the two-winged birdmen, the darkness was almost instantly dispersed. However, at this moment, there was no trace of Lin Feng. By the river, Lin Feng put down the almost lifeless Niu. In the secret realm of death, there were no safe zones. The rivers, lakes, and oceans were considered relatively safe. Although there were many cosmic system states and even black hole states, there were no birdmen. Lin Feng realized that birdmen preferred to fly in the sky and not in the water. Of course, whether it was accurate or not was not yet verified. His perception was spread out like a spider web, vigilant of the surroundings. He was careful at every step here and could not let his guard down for even half a minute. Taking out a heaven and earth fruit, Lin Feng stuffed it into Niu's jade-like red lip. Fortunately, he had bought a lot of heaven and earth fruits from the Origin Pearl Star. Otherwise, even if he wanted to save her now, he would be helpless. As the heaven and earth fruit entered her stomach, it gradually released its energy. Niu's pale skin gradually regained some color, and her picturesque face had a little rosy color. When the heaven and earth fruit's medicinal effects were fully released, Shui let out a groan and woke up. Chapter 14:11. I'm still alive? Niu opened her eyes, her beautiful face a little dazed. Yes, you're alive. Lin Feng sat beside her and said calmly. Niu bit her lip and sat up stubbornly. Her limpid eyes stared straight at Lin Feng. She quickly recognized the young man in black armor and said softly, "Thank you for saving me." Lin Feng smiled. "How do you feel now?" "Much better." Niu checked her body in surprise. She was still weak after using the forbidden move, but her body functions were not damaged at all. Her spirit was also good. That was impossible. Niu's beautiful eyes widened and she said in shock, You gave me the myriad calamity natural fruit? As the saintess and a saint king expert, and I Hugh was naturally knowledgeable. Yes. Lin Feng nodded. The myriad calamity natural fruit was said to be able to grow and bear fruit after experiencing a myriad of calamities. It had the effect of bringing the dead back to life. Saint King Yingying didn't lie to me. This myriad calamity natural fruit is very effective. Lin Feng smiled. To be able to pull back Ni Hu, who had almost exhausted her energy, it was enough to show that the myriad calamity natural fruit lived up to its reputation. Thank you for saving my life. Ni Hu's eyes were watery as she nodded deeply. A myriad calamity natural fruit was worth 200 origin beads, which was equivalent to the value of a top-grade chaotic whole treasure. How could she not be grateful? Even if she was a Saint King expert, she had less than 100 origin beads in total. You're welcome, Lin Feng said casually. If there's a chance in the future, Ni Hu will repay you even if I have to die, Ni Hu said solemnly. Lin Feng smiled. From Ni Hu's willingness to sacrifice herself to save the other three, he knew her character. You're from the Shinji Empire, right? Are those your companions just now? Lin Feng asked. Ni Hu nodded slightly. Ni Jing and Ni Ling are my sisters. We're all under orders to protect the Divine Sun. Divine Sun? Lin Feng said thoughtfully. In the Shinji Empire, I only know Cha Mu. Ni Hu was slightly surprised, and she asked in surprise, Young Master knows God's son Tianmu? Seeing that Lin Feng didn't understand, Ni Huan quickly explained, God's son of God Tianmu. His real name is Cha Mu. Yes. Lin Feng smiled and said, Brother Jia and I hit it off at first sight. We have a good relationship. Hearing this, a beautiful smile appeared on Ni Hu's face. Since Lin Feng had mentioned God's son Tianmu, their relationship had become much closer. Thus, the two of them started to chat and gradually became familiar with each other. Lin Feng also learned a lot from Ni Xian. His guess was right. There were indeed many birdmen here. To be precise, they were winged men. They were divided into ordinary winged men leaders, and winged men kings. He could clearly tell from the number of wings on their bodies. Ordinary winged people, dark matter experts, 2 winged people. He was the leader of the winged man, an immortal chaos whole, and a 4-winged winged man. The winged ruler, the Blackfield Master, had 3 pairs of 6 wings on his back. It seems that I'm lucky that I didn't meet the winged ruler. Lin Feng smiled. With his strength, it was impossible for him to escape from the winged ruler. That was the Blackfield Master. Except for a few Saint Kings who can contend with the winged ruler, most Saint Kings will die if they meet the winged ruler. Ni Hu's beautiful eyes flashed with deep fear. So, in the past 2 years, many Saint Kings have chosen to escape from this place. As expected, Lin Feng nodded and asked curiously, since the winged ruler has the strength of the Blackfield Master, why do they stay here? The Blackfield Master could easily penetrate a black hole, even a super black hole with the strongest tearing force. Ni Hu shook her head. I don't know about this, but many Saint Kings seem to know something, so they have been staying here and have not left. A phoenix would not land in a place without treasures. Obviously, there must be some unknown secret. It was just that he had just entered the secret realm of death and did not know. But one thing was for sure, this is a 6-star life planet. Lin Feng thought to himself. It was different from the Nemo star. Although the Nemo star was also a 6-star life planet, it had lost a lot of life energy and was no longer as glorious as before. But this secret realm of death was now a 6-star life planet. Whether it was a 7-star or 8-star life planet before, it was not important. What was important was the present. A 6-star life planet would give birth to a life form that would become a dark matter expert when they reached adulthood, which coincided with the winged ruler race. Born with the ability to control space, the winged ruler race would be born at the star level, be a nebula when they were young, and be a dark matter expert when they reached adulthood. After cultivation, the winged ruler race's strength would often reach the chaotic immortal rank. Among them, the winged ruler with outstanding aptitude could become the king of the winged ruler race, the Blackfield Master, the winged ruler. This place is huge. We have been here for nearly 2 years, but the number of martial artists we have seen can be counted on one hand. Hugh's beautiful eyes flickered. Although we broke the barrier and entered, there is still a spatial passage. Unless we enter together, we will enter from different places. We can only be careful when exploring here. It will be troublesome if we are discovered by the winged ruler race. Fortunately, there should not be many winged rulers. At least, we have not encountered any yet. Listening to Hugh's words, Lin Feng nodded from time to time. 2 years was indeed a little short, and what they had seen was only the tip of the iceberg of the secret realm of death. However, one thing was certain. Although there were other life forms here, the winged ruler race was undoubtedly the strongest life form and ruled the secret realm of death. Moreover, the winged ruler race was quite xenophobic. As long as they saw outsiders, they would start killing and would not rest until they were dead. Young master, if you have something to do, you don't have to worry about me. My body has recovered a lot. Hugh moved her body and forced a smile. Although there was a sound when she landed, Lin Feng knew that she was forcing herself to stay strong. Lin Feng said, "It's okay. I am alone anyway. Why don't we travel together?" Hugh snorted softly. Her limpid eyes could not hide the surprise. She pursed her lips slightly. "Will this be a burden to young master?" "Of course not. 2 people are better than 1 person. Besides, don't we have good teamwork?" Lin Feng smiled. Hugh was overjoyed and nodded in agreement. The two stayed for half a month before Hugh fully recovered. During this period, the winged ruler race passed by several times. With the help of Lin Feng's superb perception, they dove directly into the water and successfully avoided the danger. The river water was a natural barrier for the winged ruler race. Although they had strong control over space, they seemed to be particularly uninterested in water and did not even bother to explore. Lin Feng and Hugh gradually familiarized themselves with the environment. After half a month together, they had a lot of tacit understanding. The secret realm of death was extremely dangerous. If they were not careful and encountered the winged ruler, they would die. However, the more dangerous it was, the more challenging it was. The more dangerous it was, the greater the opportunity. "Let's go." Lin Feng smiled at Hugh. "Okay." Hugh responded obediently. Chapter 14:12. Lin Feng did not choose his companions at random. Although Hua was a woman, she was strong and calm, and was not afraid of death. Lin Feng believed that if she had wanted to leave the other 3 people of the godly sacrificial empire and escape alone, it would not have been a problem. Her ranking on the Milky Way King Saint list was 197. It was not high, but it was not low either. This was because she was good at control and not good at attack. It was rare to see her on the Milky Way King Saint list. After all, King Saint experts tended to be independent and improve themselves in all aspects. But she was the Saintess Protector, and her duties were different. The Saintess Protector's mission was to protect the Son of God. To be able to find such a companion in this isolated area was not a burden for Lin Feng, but a great help. Facts proved that his decision to save Hua that day was correct. Secret technique: peacock dance. Hua was in the wind like a wind fairy. In the void, gusts of wind spread out like a peacock spreading its tail, completely restraining the 4-winged man in front. On the other side, Lin Feng was slaughtering a group of 2-winged men with the dark demon sword in his hand. Although Lin Feng was also a dark matter expert, he was obviously not on the same level as the 2-winged men. He easily killed the 10 2-winged men. Then, 2 against 1, the 2 of them killed the 4-winged men effortlessly. It was the same winged men team that Lin Feng had spent a lot of effort to kill that day, but now he could win without shedding a drop of blood. The difference between the two was obvious. This is much more valuable than the devouring vital orb. Lin Feng took the crystal-like nucleus and smiled. It contained an extremely rich spatial energy. Although he did not know its function, just this alone was worth a lot. One devouring vital orb was worth 100 vital orbs, but it was not comparable to the crystal-like nucleus of the two-winged men. As for the crystal-like nucleus of the four-winged men, it was 10 times more valuable. Yes. And Aihua also smiled. Now she was very relaxed, as if she had returned to her childhood. She was no longer restrained, and the feeling of living for others was like a complete rebirth. This was another life that God had given her, and Neon was very grateful. Here, half for each of us. Lin Feng tossed the crystal-like core over. According to the calculation of the hollow devouring elemental beads, a normal crystal-like core was worth 100 elemental bead. The crystal-like core of a four-winged winged man, which was the leader of the winged men, was worth 1,000 elemental beads. Just a normal battle, and he had obtained 2,000 elemental beads. No wonder everyone swarmed into the secret realm of death. If you can survive here for a year, you'll be able to earn more wealth than you can earn in a lifetime outside. And Aihua couldn't help but sigh as she held the crystal-like pearl. Didn't you stay here for nearly 2 years? Lin Feng was puzzled. A clear smile appeared on Aishua's face. She held the crystal-like nucleus in her hand and said, "This is the first one." Lin Feng was stunned. He knew that Aihua would not lie. Previously, the 4 of them were not weak, so there was no reason why they could not kill the ordinary winged ones. Lin Feng recalled what Xian had said about the son of spiritual sacrifice. Realization dawned on him. It was likely that all the treasures would belong to the son of spiritual sacrifice alone. There will be more and more in the future. Lin Feng said to Aihua with a smile. There are still a few years left. Even if we can't find the secret of the secret realm of death, as long as we can get out alive, I guarantee that you'll be as rich as a country. Thank you for your kind words. And Aihua smiled. The two of them traveled together, and their cooperation became more and more tacit. And Aihua was different from the other Saint Kings. She had almost no objections to Lin Feng's arrangement. Perhaps it was because she was used to it. After all, the saintess of the protector of the empire did not need to think too much. They existed for the son of spiritual sacrifice. This was a good thing, as it saved them a lot of time. After all, if the two of them had their own ideas, it would be difficult for them to exert a strength that was greater than 2. Along the way, the two of them had a bountiful harvest. Just the 4 winged ones alone had killed no less than 20 of them, and each of them had obtained 10,000 elemental beads. This was a huge sum, and with the crystal-like nucleus of the ordinary winged ones, the harvest was doubled. During this time, they did not even see a single other human. This secret realm of death is really big. Lin Feng could not help but sigh. It was no wonder that Aihua and the others had only seen a few people in the past 2 years. Yes, master. Aihua's beautiful figure flashed, and she plucked a few white jade fruits the size of lychees and handed them over. But the energy of heaven and earth here is abundant, and there are countless kinds of heaven and earth fruit. All kinds of heaven and earth fruits could be seen everywhere. In just the past few days, Lin Feng's physical fitness had increased by more than 10%, and he was one step closer to the limit. Aihua, did you notice that there is a difference in the space energy here? Lin Feng asked as he bit into the white jade fruit. You must be joking, master. How could I possibly feel the space energy? Aihua smiled charmingly, and her crescent-shaped eyes sparkled. The white hair band on her head had been untied, and a strand of curly black hair floated down. It was very beautiful. Yes. Lin Feng smiled slightly. His perception was indeed extraordinary, but it was only for the heaven and earth energy. The level of space energy was too high, so it was difficult to determine. Moreover, the area was too vast, and the two of them were not moving fast, so it was even more difficult to distinguish. However, he could still vaguely feel it. Can Master detect the change in space energy? Anihua asked curiously. A little. Lin Feng turned his head and looked to the right. The space energy there should be stronger than here, but I'm not very sure. Anihua smiled. It doesn't matter if it's real or not. Anyway, we're wandering everywhere now. There's no harm in giving it a try. Lin Feng nodded. Soon, they swallowed the heaven and earth fruit. Lin Feng and Anihua followed the direction they sensed. They were even more careful because they had entered along the river. If they encountered any unsolvable danger, at least they had a way out. But here, in the boundless area, there was no way out at all. After traveling for a few days, they occasionally encountered winged people. If they met two people who could fight, they would naturally kill them. If they met a larger group, they would hide. Although the four-winged people's spatial perception was very strong, Lin Feng's speed was very fast. After suffering a few losses, Lin Feng had learned to be smart. Just like a hunter hunting, he would make a judgment before seeing everything from a distance. If it was an irresistible danger, he would rather miss the prey than take the risk. Here, there was nothing wrong with following the rules. The journey was uneventful. Anihua admired Lin Feng's superb perception. If they had such ability that day, they would not have been surrounded. At that time, they relied more on the terrain to make judgments. It was basically a blind guess. Even if they did not encounter the four-winged people at that time, they would still encounter them later. After all, luck alone could not last long. Whoosh, as they traveled, Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up, and his body slowed down. In the waterfall-like area ahead, there were specks of light, like flashing pearls. His perception was extremely special. Chapter 14:13. Whoosh, Lin Feng and Anihua soon arrived at the location of their perception. What entered his sight was a waterfall that flowed straight down. It was a magnificent sight, and the sound of water splashing was deafening. The surrounding mountains surrounded this secluded valley. It didn't seem ordinary at all, but it wasn't. This is it, Lin Feng murmured softly. His gaze swept around, and then fell on the waterfall with a flash of light. Is there anything here, young master? Anihua's crescent-shaped eyes looked around. Her gaze fell on Lin Feng's face. Anihua was slightly surprised. She followed his gaze and saw the magnificent waterfall flowing down. She moaned softly and tilted her head slightly, thinking, what was so strange about that waterfall? Lin Feng raised his hand. In an instant, a pure dark energy cut through the entire waterfall like a knife, following the dark magic law. Anihua looked at the scene in front of her, her beautiful eyes widening. She covered her mouth in shock, revealing a look of disbelief. In front of her was a membrane wall flashing like pearls, hidden behind the waterfall. It was very hidden. Although they were less than 100 meters apart, she didn't notice it at all. She glanced at Lin Feng with her beautiful eyes. She was even more curious. How did he do it? It's a restriction, but not an ordinary one. Lin Feng's eyes flickered, and he said softly, it not only has a blocking effect, but also a simulation. It completely simulates the surrounding energy aura, making it difficult for people to detect. Lin Feng's heart trembled. If he hadn't seen it, he would have been deceived by it. The winged men couldn't find it at all. The detection of spatial perception was like a grassland that could be seen through at a glance. There was no way to find out what was inside. Unless the winged men destroyed the entire mountain range, they wouldn't be able to find it. There are treasures inside? Anihua said happily. I don't know. Lin Feng smiled. With a flash, Lin Feng arrived at the bottom of the waterfall. As the sound of the waterfall flowed into his ears, his heart was incomparably calm. Looking at the sparkling restriction in front of him, Lin Feng extended his hand and gently touched it. Bang! The restriction produced a strong rebound, and Lin Feng immediately withdrew his hand. As expected. Hiss! A sharp wind blade formed in Anaihua's hand and was about to break the restriction. Lin Feng grabbed Anaihua's hand, and the wind blade dissipated in an instant. Anihua looked at Lin Feng in surprise. Feeling the warmth on her wrist, she couldn't help but blush. "Wait a minute," Lin Feng said to Anihua. The latter nodded as if she had understood something. After that, Lin Feng used his world force to probe the restrictions. The sparkling restrictions emitted a dazzling light that was extremely beautiful. It was like 10,000 pearls were competing to be the first to shine, dazzling the eyes of those who saw it. Neon couldn't take her eyes off her. Suddenly, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He felt as if someone was looking at him. That feeling was extremely uncomfortable. However, the feeling of being spied on quickly disappeared. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. In front of him, the light of the pearl spell actually strangely dissipated, gradually fading away. In front of him was a deep and mysterious black cave. Anihua pursed her lips and her beautiful eyes flickered. She looked at Lin Feng with some curiosity and waited for Lin Feng's decision. "Let's go in." Lin Feng smiled. "Okay," Anihua responded obediently. As the two stepped in, the originally dim pearl spell behind them lit up again. The sound of the waterfall, which was blocked by Lin Feng, continued to flow down. Everything returned to normal. Lin Feng and Anihua entered a dark cave. Although the waterfall was pouring outside, the cave wasn't humid. On the contrary, it was dry and spacious. Lin Feng faintly sensed the faint aura in his heart and walked straight ahead. Compared to Lin Feng, Anihua was more nervous. After all, this was the territory of the Winged Men clan. How could she not be worried? However, she had an inexplicable trust in Lin Feng. When he came in, she followed him. After walking for a while, the cave gradually widened and there were more winding paths. It was as if they had entered a maze with many twists and turns. The slightest carelessness would cause them to lose their way. Anihua's jade-like face was slightly surprised. Her crescent-shaped eyes scanned around. For a moment, she was in a dilemma and didn't know where to go. "Follow me." Lin Feng smiled faintly. He had already sensed the correct path. This maze was basically not very useful. It was mainly used for delay. Although he had more or less figured it out, Lin Feng was still very careful. He walked slowly and wasn't in a hurry. "Young master, what exactly is this place?" Anihua couldn't help but ask. "I'm not sure." Since Anihua asked, Lin Feng naturally answered, "If I'm not wrong, this should be a hidden place or a paradise, but I'm not sure what it is." Anihua exclaimed softly. Her crescent-shaped eyes were filled with worry. Could it be the territory of the Winged Men clan? "The possibility is very small," Lin Feng said. "The Winged Men clan is the master of this secret realm of death. There's no need for them to spend so much effort to set up restrictions and create a maze. These things are probably used to guard against the Winged Men clan. Moreover, the owner of this place shouldn't be hostile to us." "How do you know, young master?" Anihua was puzzled. Lin Feng smiled. "He had already detected us when we were at the pearl restriction outside. If he was hostile to us, why would he let us in?" After a pause, Lin Feng shrugged. "Even if he wanted to invite us into a trap, he should have shown up by now." With that, Lin Feng pointed to the front. "Look, we've reached the exit." Anihua looked over. Sure enough, at the end of the distance, there was an almost identical pearl restriction flashing with clear light. As they arrived, the pearl restriction gradually dimmed. Rays of light shone down, instantly illuminating the dark cave. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Swish! Swish! The two leaped out of the cave. In front of them was a vast expanse of heaven and earth spiritual qi. Unlike the outside world, the spatial energy here was not abundant, but the other laws of energy were very active. "Oh!" Lin Feng and Anihua were startled. In front of them were more than 10 humans, dressed in animal skins. They had a pair of sharp horns less than 5 centimeters long on their head. 2 canine teeth hung from the corners of their mouth. Their brown skin was full of wild power. Some were holding forks, some were holding swords and spears. Some were as strong as bulls and used their fists as weapons. Their most distinctive feature was the white tail behind them. "The two of you, please follow me." A voice as pleasant as an oriole's rang out. Among the white-tailed humans, a beautiful woman dressed in a white spotted animal skin walked out. Her brown eyes were sparkling. Lin Feng and Anihua were stunned. She was speaking the common language of the Milky Way. Chapter 14:14. An Meng crescent moon looked at Lin Feng, waiting for his decision. Lin Feng was a little surprised, but he didn't hesitate. He nodded and followed the white-spotted woman. Since he was already here, he might as well take things as they came. This was the interior of a crystal mountain. It was spacious and huge, like a different world. The white-tailed humans were either practicing martial arts, sparring, or busy with trivial matters. There weren't many of them, only a few hundred. However, almost every one of them was a dark matter expert, and many of them were chaotic immortal experts. Even, swoosh. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. In the deepest part of the crystal mountain, the white-spotted woman was leading him. There was a rather shocking aura there. The Dark Region Master. In this small crystal mountain, there was a super-existence that could destroy the Milky Way. Lin Feng was also amazed. In the secret realm of death, other than the six-winged winged man monarch, there were other masters of the Black Region. Where is this place? Lin Feng was getting more and more curious about the secret realm of death. Now he understood why the secret realm of death could exist in the Milky Way super black hole for countless years without being torn apart. It was because it couldn't be torn apart. But why would such a powerful star be swallowed by the Milky Way super black hole? Lin Feng frowned. With the level of the secret realm of death, the Milky Way super black hole couldn't swallow it. Just the Dark Region Master alone could easily resist the suction of the black hole. Moreover, there was more than one Dark Region Master in the secret realm of death. There was at least one in this small crystal mountain. "We're here. Go in," the white-spotted woman said expressionlessly. She stood by the door of the huge stone house. Lin Feng nodded and entered. The stone house was very ordinary. It could even be said that it was very simple. There were no special facilities inside. Some bottles made of light brown crystals and stone carvings should be the few decorations in the stone house. The entire stone house could be seen at a glance. Lin Feng looked ahead. There was an old man with a hunched back. His face was full of wrinkles, and he couldn't tell his age. A pair of dusky eyes saw his arrival and suddenly opened, bringing with it a wisp of light, straight into his heart. Lin Feng's heart instantly thumped, and everything around him paled in comparison. Lin Feng greets Senior. Coming back to his senses, Lin Feng bowed slightly. As Lin Feng's voice rang out, Anihua's pretty face paled. She woke up with a start and bowed slightly. Anihua greets Senior. "Welcome, young friends." The hunchbacked old man revealed a smile. The wrinkles on his face were all squeezed together, and the sharpness in his eyes had already disappeared. Not even the slightest bit of aura was left. Right now, he looked no different from an ordinary old man. "You're a guest. Have a seat." The hunchbacked old man sighed. "The last time we had a guest from afar was more than 2,000 eras ago." More than 2,000 eras? Lin Feng and Anihua were both shocked, especially Anihua. A Sage King expert, also known as an immortal chaotic whole expert, had a lifespan of no more than 2,000 eras. The guest from afar that Senior is referring to, is he from the 7 great empires of the Milky Way? Lin Feng asked. The hunchbacked old man nodded. He's a realm force cultivator. Lin Feng nodded. Ordinary warriors didn't have such strong perception, so it was difficult for them to discover that there was something else here. "Young friends, are you full of doubts now?" The hunchbacked old man narrowed his eyes and chuckled. Lin Feng and Anihua both nodded. There were too many questions. Where was this place? Who were they? What did they have to do with the winged men? There was also the Milky Way common language and the mystery of this entire world. Everything was unknown. Don't worry, listen to me slowly. The hunchbacked old man smiled. Soon, the hunchbacked old man told them everything. This was the White Wheel tribe, and he was the chief of the tribe, the White Wheel chief. There were other tribes like them, but after tens of thousands of eras, they had fallen, and there were less than 1,000 people left. Here, the winged men were the strongest. Although they didn't control the entire secret realm, they were at least the kings of the entire world, and their position was unshakable. Whether it was the humans or the Chan River Demon clan, they were all dragging out an ignoble existence. Even if the White Wheel Chief was the master of the Black region. Even among the masters of the Black region, there were differences in strength. The stronger masters of the Black region could even kill the weaker masters of the Black region. In this secret realm of death, the winged men had no less than 3 top-level masters of the Black region. Pashan, Black Wing, and Qianhuan Wu. They are the strongest 8 winged emperors of the winged men. Only the winged men with the most outstanding bloodline can reach the highest 8-winged realm. The White Wheel Chief's voice had a trace of reverence. Of course, whether there are other 8-winged emperors now, I don't know. Lin Feng nodded secretly. Top-level masters of the Black region. Thinking about it, his teacher, the true dragon monarch, should also be at that level, right? This Tingqi continent is divided into the east, south, west, north, and central continents, with the Mountain Break Wing Emperor occupying the east continent, the Black Wing Emperor occupying the south continent, and the Qianhuan Wu Wing Emperor occupying the west continent. The 3 factions are on par with each other, and they don't give in to each other. If the ancient winged men could unite, would there be room for us to survive? The White Wheel Chief laughed hoarsely and looked at Lin Feng. We are in the North Continent and it is the most chaotic place. The 3 factions all want to get a share of it, but they are afraid of each other. Gradually, this place became a lawless land of slaughter. There are endless killings here, and countless winged men come here to train and strengthen themselves. The 3 winged emperors also tacitly acknowledged the uniqueness of the North Continent, and they even threw their subordinates here to improve their battle strength. Lin Feng listened carefully. This Tingqi continent was more complicated than he had imagined. The whitetail race has a few branches, but there aren't many of them. Even if we add all of them together, there should be less than 2,000. The White Wheel Chief's voice had a hint of loneliness. Lin Feng also felt that it was a pity. The whitetail race should have been glorious in the past. However, it was not easy for a race to last for thousands or tens of thousands of eras. In the North Continent, the strongest human race should be the Thunder race. Of course, they can't compare to the winged men, the White Wheel Chief said. Chieftain Bailuan said, if all of the human forces were to join forces, we would barely be able to match the Chan Hiao clan. However, the human race and the demon race are less than 1,000th of the winged men. The gap was quite big. Lin Feng glanced at an Aishian. The latter's beautiful face could not hide her shock. The whitetail race was only one of the weaker branches of the human race in the North Continent of the Tingqi continent, but they already had a black domain master and countless chaotic immortal beings. They were definitely an existence that could sweep through the Milky Way. However, there were many people here who were stronger than them. The winged men were at the top of the pyramid. This is interesting. Lin Feng's eyes revealed a deep fighting spirit, and his heart was surging. Looking at the White Wheel Chief, Lin Feng immediately asked, what is in the Middle Continent? Chapter 14-15. Central Continent. The White Wheel Chieftain's wrinkled eyelids closed slightly, as if he had fallen into endless contemplation. Sui Er shook his head and let out a long sigh. Back then, the ancestor of the white-tailed human tribe died while searching for the Central Continent. In the endless eras, countless experts have gone to the mysterious Central Continent, but that place is still a mystery. Perhaps only the 3 winged monarchs of the winged men tribe know what's there. The chief opened his dark eyes and looked at Lin Feng. Don't be driven by curiosity. Explore the central continent. That's why the white-tailed human tribe declined. The Milky Way is about to wake up. You should go and find the exit. Otherwise, the chief paused and said, you'll have to stay here for a few hundred eras. The Milky Way was naturally the Milky Way super black hole. Lin Feng understood that the chief was referring to the ancient myriad world's secret realm that was about to close. There were less than 5 years left. Senior, do you know where the exit is? Lin Feng asked. There are 13 known exits in the northern continent. If you go and find them yourself, I'm afraid it'll be difficult. Well, I'll let Bai Tang take you there, the chief said. Then, he coughed a few times. A long-legged white figure appeared outside the door. It was the white-spotted woman. Chief, what are your orders? The white-spotted woman, Bai Tang, said respectfully. Treat the 2 guests well and then take them away, the chief ordered. Then, he smiled at Lin Feng and Nair. If you don't mind the White Wheel tribe, you can rest for a while before you leave. Lin Feng and Anai Xian thanked Chief Bai Luan and retreated with Bai Tang. After leaving Chief Bai Luan's residence, Lin Feng already had a rough understanding of the secret realm of death. This was the North Continent, a chaotic place where only the strong were respected. The Winged Men clan, the Human clan, and the Monster clan of the Chan River were all at war here. The tribe he was in was a branch of the white-tailed human tribe called the White Wheel tribe. Among all the surviving human clans, the White-Tail tribe was relatively weak. According to the White-Tail chief, in order to explore the mysterious central continent, the ancestors of the White-Tail tribe had fallen, and since then, the White-Tail tribe had declined. East, South, West, and North. The 4 great continents have already been decided. Even the most chaotic northern continent wouldn't have too many secrets to unearth, except for the central continent. Lin Feng pondered in his heart. As the saying goes, if something is abnormal, there must be a demon. The central continent must be hiding a big secret. Otherwise, why would the Ting Chi continent be here? Why would the dignified master of the Black region stay here? However, the central continent seemed to be a place where one could enter but not leave. Even the master of the Black region had a hard time controlling it. With his current strength, it was just as the White Wheel chieftain had said, he should not be buried by curiosity. Please rest for now. Come find me when you're ready to leave, Bai Tang said expressionlessly. Okay, thank you. Lin Feng nodded. Sorry to trouble you, senior. Anai Hua bowed slightly. Bai Tang nodded and left. He had a human body but a demon's tail, leaving behind a faint afterimage. Lin Feng sighed slightly. This was an immortal chaos hole expert who was stronger than him. The 2 of them rested in a large stone house that was even bigger than the White Wheel chieftain's. This place should be used to entertain guests. After interacting with the White Wheel chieftain, he could clearly feel his hospitality and the simplicity and kindness of the white-tailed clan. If the chieftain was like this, the clansmen would naturally be able to see it. What plans do you have, young master? Anai Hua asked. What about you? Lin Feng asked with a smile. Anai Hua's crescent-shaped eyes widened slightly, and she smiled. I'll follow you, young master. Lin Feng laughed involuntarily, but Anai Hua kicked the ball back to him. She muttered, actually, it's still early. It's not a bad idea to stay here first. It won't be too late to leave after we figure out the actual situation of the Ting Chi continent. Anai Hua nodded slightly. I've been in the Ting Chi continent for almost 2 years, and I've been on tenterhooks every day. I also want to relax and rest. Okay. Lin Feng smiled and nodded. The 2 of them immediately settled down in the White Wheel tribe. It was quiet and peaceful here. Most of the people living in the tribe were old, weak women, and children. There were very few warriors. This was because almost all of their warriors were outside. The North Continent was the most chaotic place, so it also had the highest possibility. The limit of an ordinary White Wheel tribe warrior was an immortal chaos hole. Only by constantly improving themselves through killing and tempering could they become a Blackfield master. So the White Wheel Chieftain isn't the only Blackfield master in the White Wheel tribe? Lin Feng asked. Of course, our tribe has 3 white-tailed warriors. One of them is my older brother, White Wolf. A little boy with a round face put his hands on his waist and said proudly, My brother is the youngest white-tailed warrior in the tribe. Yes, your brother must be very powerful. Lin Feng smiled. Yes, when I grow up, I want to become a powerful white-tailed warrior like my brother. The round-faced boy had a proud look on his face. It was obvious that he was very proud of his older brother, White Wolf. Lin Feng smiled. The people of the White Wheel tribe were very simple and did not scheme. Their greatest wish was to revitalize the white-tailed tribe. Unfortunately, the heavens did not fulfill their wishes. In the North Continent, where competition was extremely fierce, it was not easy to even stay alive. For a tribe to be strong, it had to rely on the protection of experts. Therefore, all the men of the White Wheel tribe would leave the tribe to train as long as they passed the tribe's trial. If they could not become a white-tailed warrior, they were not allowed to return to the tribe. It was quite strict. White-tailed warrior was the title given to the strongest warrior of the white-tailed tribe. Blackfield Master. What about Bai Tang? Lin Feng asked. Sister Bai Tang is my older brother's fiancée. The round-faced boy's eyes were filled with joy. He smiled and said, Sister Bai Tang is beautiful and treats us well. She even taught us how to become warriors. Yuan Dan likes her the most. In the White Wheel tribe, ordinary people were not given the surname Bai. Only those who passed the tribe's trial would be given the surname Bai by the chief. To pass the tribe's trial, one had to first reach the immortal chaotic hole level. Lin Feng nodded and said softly, Do you miss your older brother? Yuan Dan's eyes dimmed a little when he heard this. He bit his lips stubbornly and shook his head. Yes, but I can't. Sister Bai Tang misses my older brother more than Yuan Dan, but she said that if we want to revitalize the White Wheel tribe, we have to abandon our personal relationships. Lin Feng sighed softly in his heart. It was no wonder that they thought this way. If they wanted to survive on the Ting Chi continent, they had to be strong enough. Not to mention the powerful Wing tribe and the Chan River Demon tribe, even the few remaining human tribes would kill each other. The big fish ate the small fish, and the small fish ate the shrimp. Sister Bai Tang. Yuan Dan's eyes suddenly lit up. He looked behind Lin Feng and shouted in surprise. Chapter 14:16. A pair of slender and plump thighs, dressed in a white spotted beast skin, reflected her ample breasts and perky buttocks. Her wheat-colored skin was sparkling and translucent, and a pair of bewitching brown eyes flickered. You're slacking off again, Yuan Dan. Although Bai Tang's tone was reproachful, her eyes were filled with love. Yuan Dan chuckled and scratched the back of his head. It's rare to have a guest. Seeing Bai Tang's glare, Yuan Dan covered his mouth. I'm going to cultivate now. After saying that, he ran away. Don't blame him. I was the one who talked to him, Lin Feng said with a smile. Oh. Bai Tang glanced at Lin Feng expressionlessly and turned to leave. Lin Feng was also a little helpless. He said, Senior Bai Tang. Bai Tang, who was leaving, stopped. I'm not a senior. Just call me Bai Tang. After a pause, Bai Tang said, What's the matter? Can you show me around the White Wheel tribe? Lin Feng said with a smile. After he said that, it was a little quiet. After a long time, Bai Tang said, Follow me. Lin Feng nodded and followed. At first, Lin Feng thought that Bai Tang hated outsiders. However, after interacting with her, he realized that was not the case. She just had an indifferent personality and did not like to talk to people she was not familiar with. 100 Orchard. We don't need to rely on the outside world. Our White Wheel tribe can be self-sufficient with just the fruit trees of the 100 Orchard. Silkworm Pond. This is the precious pond water taken by the tribe's white-tailed warriors from the northern continent's Snow Mountain. It is used to nourish and strengthen the soul. Underground demonic beast farm. Tens of thousands of demonic beasts are kept in captivity for the tribes use to drink blood and eat meat to train their battle strength. Bai Tang brought Lin Feng around one by one. The White Wheel tribe was bigger than he had imagined. Although it was small, it had all the essentials. The entire White Wheel tribe system was very clear. The white-tailed humans in the tribe, from birth to childhood to adolescence, were all cultivated step by step. It was an eye-opener for Lin Feng. Why is the spiritual energy of heaven and earth so strange here? There is little spatial energy, but there is more elemental energy? Lin Feng asked curiously. Bai Tang replied, because of the cornflower tree. Cornflower tree? Lin Feng recalled the strange fruit trees he had seen in the 100 Orchard, and his eyes lit up. The cornflower tree is a unique tree life form. It can absorb spatial energy and release other types of energy. Bai Tang said, most human tribes will plant a large number of cornflower trees to guard against the winged men. Lin Feng suddenly understood. The winged men were naturally proficient in spatial energy and were extremely sensitive to spatial energy. However, their sensitivity to other elemental energies was lacking. The cornelian tree absorbed the spatial energy and formed a natural barrier. It's true that the winged men can't sense us, but other human tribes and the Chan River Demon tribe can still sense us, Bai Tang said. Especially humans who are good at sensing. As he spoke, he shot a glance at Lin Feng, implying something. Lin Feng nodded. So, it's not necessarily safe here? Previously, when he was chatting with the White Wheel chieftain, he had mentioned that the northern continent was too chaotic. Not only did the white-tailed humans have to face the winged humans, but the Chan River demon race was also a huge threat. Even the human race itself was in constant internal strife. Bai Tang nodded. We often have to move away. There was a hint of loneliness in his voice, and Lin Feng understood that. They were born from the same roots, so there was no need to be so anxious. As they walked, they soon arrived at a bustling place. Clang! Clang! The sound of weapons clashing could be heard incessantly. Lin Feng looked over and saw a simple and crude fighting stage. Two youths were fighting at high speed. The two horns on their foreheads emitted a brilliant light. One of them held a saber in his hand while the other held a spear. Upper-level saints. This? Lin Feng's gaze landed on the saber-wielding youth, and he was deeply shocked. His saber art was more exquisite and outstanding than his. His saber perception was extremely strong, and his realm was even higher than his. That was the peak 12th tier saber heart and a trace of the saber heavenly Tao. The saber attack contained the law of light, which was perfectly integrated into the saber art. What a simple attack! Lin Feng watched carefully, using strength and martial arts to determine victory. The two youths' comprehension of the law was not weak, but they did not use any profound meaning or secret techniques. They only used the law of light to assist their body and saber art. Focused and refined. Impressive. Lin Feng secretly sighed. He had never seen the white-tailed humans fight, and now he finally saw it. It was completely different from the way humans fought in the Milky Way galaxy. Soon, the saber-wielding youth was defeated. The spear-wielding youth's spear art was more refined. His spear art was like a rainbow, and the advantage of the spear's long attack range was fully utilized. How is it? Bai Tang looked at Lin Feng. Very impressive. Lin Feng gave a thumbs up, and praised from the bottom of his heart. Bai Tang's lips curled up slightly, revealing a faint smile. Her beautiful eyes twinkled. They are the future and hope of our White Wheel tribe. Lin Feng nodded. From Yuan Dan, it could be seen that the children here had strong character and a sense of responsibility. They were willing to give up everything for the tribe. Can we go over and take a look? Lin Feng pointed to the front. Bai Tang nodded. Lin Feng smiled and walked forward. He could also benefit a lot from watching these youths fight at a close distance. These youths looked young, but in reality they were not. According to Earth's calculation, the youngest of them was thousands of years old. The growth of the white-tailed humans was slower. 100 years was childhood, and they were stellar level. 1,000 years was youth, and they were stellar level. 10,000 years was adulthood, and they were black hole level. Born and raised on a six-star life planet, they also had the seed of a six-star life form buried in them. When they reached adulthood, they were black hole level powerhouses. If we really count, I'm the youngest. Lin Feng smiled in his heart. He would not talk nonsense. In fact, he had only cultivated for about 200 years. However, the calculation was different in every place, and they could not be generalized. Looking closer, two youths came up to the stage to spar. One of them held a saber, and the other held a whip. Lin Feng's gaze fell on the horns on their foreheads. He sensed that the law of light was the strongest there. This should be the source of their bloodline, Lin Feng thought. But why were they called the white-tailed humans? Pursing his lips and thinking, Lin Feng paid close attention to the battle on the stage. It was really amazing. Many saints and even holy kings in the Milky Way could not comprehend the heavenly path, but every youth here knew it. A trace of the heavenly path of the saber, and a trace of the heavenly path of the whip. The battle this time was more intense than before. Lin Feng's eyes were wide open. Suddenly, the whip-wielding youth's tail lashed out, turning into an extremely bright whip shadow, and lashed out fiercely. Combined with the heavenly path of the whip, it directly shattered the saber of the youth. The strongest of our white-tailed humans is the white tail behind us. It's invincible. Bai Tang's voice sounded beside Lin Feng. Chapter 14:17. It's a natural weapon. It can be as soft and sturdy as a whip or as hard and ferocious as a chain. Our tribe's warriors can learn how to use their tails to enhance their combat strength after they reach adulthood. Lin Feng nodded. At that time, their bodies would be considered fully grown. He is one of the strongest genius warriors in the tribe, Bai Jingxian, said Bai Tang. There was deep admiration in her eyes. He passed the tribe's trial before he was even a child. He is a true genius. Lin Feng was tempted. Passing the tribe's trial was equivalent to possessing Chaos' whole immortal combat strength and could leave the tribe to train. However, this was only combat strength, not strength. No wonder the blade-wielding youth was defeated so quickly, said Lin Feng. Bai Tang glanced at him and calmly said, Yihu's strength is not bad. He almost passed the tribe's trial. He has the strongest fighting spirit among this batch of youths. He is the one who cultivates the most diligently and desperately. It's just that his aptitude is slightly lacking. Aptitude was too important. It determined a warrior's cultivation speed and the upper limit of their cultivation. Lin Feng looked at the defeated youth. He held the broken saber in his hand with a confused expression. A saber user's saber was their life and everything. When the saber was broken, the heart would die. Although he looked calm, his heart was in turmoil. On the contrary, the genius youth named Bai Jingxian was smiling as he accepted everyone's praise. He was like a proud son of heaven. Jingshuan's biggest problem is his arrogance. He is too easily proud and impetuous, said Bai Tang slowly. As the instructor of these children, she knew the strengths and weaknesses of each child like the back of her hand. It's normal. Lin Feng smiled. What was a genius? Geniuses had the right to be arrogant. You are also a warrior, right? Bai Tang suddenly asked. Lin Feng was slightly surprised and nodded. He naturally knew what Bai Tang meant. The meaning of warrior in the White Wheel tribe was Chaos' whole immortal combat strength. In other words, one could pass the tribe's trial and be given the surname Bai. Bai Tang's eyes flashed as she said, In that case, are you willing to go on stage and spar? Lin Feng was stunned. With him. Lin Feng pointed at Bai Jingxian. Among these youths, he was the only one who was a warrior. Bai Tang replied. Sure. Lin Feng replied without hesitation. Just as Bai Tang nodded, Lin Feng suddenly said, But I have a condition. Bai Tang's brows slightly wrinkled. Lin Feng stared at Bai Tang and said, "If I win, it's your turn." Bai Tang's beautiful eyes flashed with a strange light. She felt a strong challenge from Lin Feng. He was not joking. Bai Tang then said, "You should know that I am an immortal chaos whole powerhouse, while you are only a dark matter powerhouse." Bai Tang had long seen through Lin Feng's real situation. However, he still couldn't see through his strength. Lin Feng smiled and walked forward. Only by challenging the strong can one improve their strength. Although she had only seen a portion of Bai Jingxuan's strength, it was enough to steal a leopard. As the strongest saint in the Milky Way, although Lin Feng wasn't 100% confident, he was still 99% confident. He wasn't very interested in such a battle. However, sparring with Bai Tang was different. Although she was a woman, her strength was second to none in the White Wheel tribe. Jingxian. Come on, Jingxian. Don't let the White Wheel tribe down. You must win. Amidst the respectful shouts of the youths, Bai Jingxian jumped onto the stage with an imposing appearance. His white tail wrapped around his waist, and two small pointed horns on his head flickered with the law of light energy. There was some arrogance in his eyes, and he didn't care about Lin Feng at all. He was the strongest genius in the White Wheel tribe. He could even defeat some immortal chaos whole powerhouses at the same level as dark matter powerhouses. Not only did he have extremely strong talent, but he also had excellent combat senses. He was the future hope of the White Wheel tribe. Lin Feng was already on the stage. He stood calmly and looked at Bai Jingxian. He knew Bai Tang's intention. No matter who won or lost in this battle, the White Wheel tribe would be in an invincible position. If Bai Jingxian won, the White Wheel tribe's momentum would be strengthened. The youth's morale would soar and they would train harder. If Bai Jingxian lost, it would be a wake-up call to him. Using a loss to warn a genius was also very beneficial. Below the stage, Bai Tang crossed her arms and looked at the two of them. She wanted to know. The most elite genius of the White Wheel tribe versus the genius of the Milky Way galaxy, who was also a dark matter powerhouse. Who would be stronger? White Wheel tribe, Bai Jingxian. The whip in Bai Jingxuan's hand seemed to be made from the tendons of a demon beast. Milky Way Earth, Lin Feng. Lin Feng bowed slightly. Amidst the cheers of the White Wheel tribe, the two of them quickly started the battle after a brief introduction. Bai Jingxian, who wanted to win glory for the White Wheel tribe, started off like a fierce tiger coming down the mountain. He attacked as fast as lightning. The sharp horn on his head condensed the law of light, which was almost perfect for Bai Jingxuan's whip technique. The long whip in his hand flashed with a terrifying cold light as he lashed it out. It was like an agile white dragon as it attacked Lin Feng. The advantage of the whip was that it was soft, shapeless, and had a long attack range. However, its weakness was also very obvious. Its attack power was weaker, and the transmission of power was weaker. However, Bai Jingxian was smart enough to use the law of light to make up for these disadvantages. Among the youths of the White Wheel tribe, he was indeed the strongest. He was unrivaled. However, his opponent this time was Lin Feng, who had been through hundreds of battles. That was the battle power that he had honed through countless battles. It was not something that a greenhorn like Bai Jingxian could compare with. In terms of realm, Bai Jingxian was better, but not by much. His heart of the whip had reached the pinnacle of the 12th layer, and he had comprehended a bit of the heavenly path of the whip. Lin Feng's heart of the blade was at the 12th layer, and he had also comprehended a bit of the heavenly path of the blade. However, Lin Feng's blade technique was clearly more exquisite and stronger. Lin Feng's strongest point was his unparalleled strength, which was close to the limit of a dark matter expert. The difference in weapons alone was enough to determine victory. Boom! The soul-severing blade of Black Hell revealed its brilliance, raising the ability of the law of Dark Demon to a whole new level. Although Bai Jingxian used his talent to drive the law of light, It was far inferior to Lin Feng's peaked chaotic dark treasure. The difference was too great. Thick black fog surrounded the soul-severing blade. Lin Feng completely crushed Bai Jingxian in terms of aura and strength. Bai Jingxuan's handsome face was extremely pale. He had already lost all his courage in a head-on battle. How can this be? Bai Jingxian still wanted to counterattack with his white tail, but the blade light in front of him and the fierce aura of the human youth completely suppressed him. Bai Jingxian was defeated easily. Bang! Bai Jingxian fell off the battle stage. The youths of the White Wheel tribe were all dumbfounded. Chapter 14:18. Their confidence from before had turned into a joke. The group of youths couldn't believe it and stood rooted to the ground. The strongest of them all, Bai Jingxian, who was already known as a warrior, was actually defeated by this human youth in a single exchange. Too fast. It was so fast that they didn't even have time to react before the battle ended. Many pairs of eyes looked at Lin Feng on the stage. Some were shocked, some were unwilling, and some were angry. Lin Feng's action was equivalent to showing off his power to the White Wheel tribe, so they were naturally unwilling to accept it. Bullying the weak, it's not fair. That's right, your weapon is more powerful than his. This battle doesn't count. Let's do it again. After all, they were still youths, so Lin Feng didn't take it to heart. Furthermore, defeating Bai Jingxian was nothing to him, so he didn't take it to heart. Just as the other youths said, this was a competition of bullying the weak. His target was never Bai Jingxian, but, swoosh! Lin Feng looked directly at Bai Tang below the stage. A sharp light flashed in his eyes, just like the blade in his hand. From the beginning, Bai Tang was his target. A pair of deep brown eyes flickered. Bai Tang was truly shocked in his heart. She did think that Bai Jingxian might lose. After all, there was always someone better than him. However, she didn't expect him to lose so miserably. It was like an adult bullying a child, and Bai Jingxian was defeated in just 2 or 3 moves. Lin Feng's strength was much stronger than she expected. To him, this is actually a good thing. Looking at the stage, Bai Jingxian, who was in a daze, seemed to have fallen from the clouds. The light of the genius had completely shattered. As someone who had experienced it, Bai Tang knew that sometimes, failure was more important than success. Only by standing up after falling would one become stronger. A true powerhouse must have fallen countless times, and each time, he would climb back up unyieldingly. This human youth has such a strong will to battle. Bai Tang felt Lin Feng's gaze. That was a real challenge, and she couldn't refuse. With a slight sigh, Bai Tang's vigorous figure instantly landed on the stage. Uproar, the youths were boiling with excitement. Sister Bai Tang! Help us regain our dignity, big sister Bai Tang! Our Bai Luan tribe is not a pushover. Bai Tang raised her hand, and in a split second, all the youths quietened down. Bai Tang's beautiful eyes swept across all the youths as she slowly said, "If you lose, you have to lose with dignity. That was a very fair battle. Jingxian lost because of his own strength. There's no other reason. Don't be a frog in a well. There are many people in the universe who are stronger than us. We can't be complacent. Do you hear me?" "Yes, big sister Bai Tang," the youths replied in unison. It could be seen that Bai Tang had an extraordinary position in the hearts of these youths. Lin Feng looked at Bai Tang. From her body, he could see some of the qualities of the White Wheel tribesman, and the character of a warrior. Lin Feng didn't have the slightest bit of confidence when facing this expert whose strength was above his own, but this was actually better. Only by challenging yourself can you improve. Come. After Bai Tang educated the youths, he looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked at Bai Tang. No weapons. Bai Tang shook her head. I already have the strongest weapon. All right. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He naturally knew what Bai Tang meant. The strongest weapons of the white-tailed human race were on them. In an instant, the black hell soul-severing saber vibrated, and Lin Feng's battle intent rapidly rose. blazing dark magic power condensed, and the divine might of a peak high-grade chaos profound treasure appeared. The youths below all gasped. The power of the laws was even stronger than before. Lightning Beast Saber Technique. Lin Feng attacked, and the enhanced dark magic that was close to greater mastery caused his eyes to turn blood-red. His battle intent and killing intent soared several times. At this moment, it was as if he had transformed into Shura. Is this true strength? Bai Tang's beautiful eyes flashed. Facing Lin Feng's attack, she did not retreat. Instead, she advanced. Seeing that the blade technique was like a rainbow, chopping down from above, Bai Tang's figure suddenly turned illusory and dodged it with a slight flash. Bai Tang was startled. The saber technique from before was a feint. The black aura in front of her was dense, and the saber had already arrived. Chi! A shrill sound broke through the air as Bai Tang's slender white tail suddenly swung out. It was incomparably tough as it met Lin Feng's saber head-on. When the two collided, Bai Tang's heart trembled, and the powerful force caused her to rapidly retreat. How can his strength be so strong? Bai Tang was somewhat shocked. Her physical strength far exceeded that of an ordinary human. This ordinary-looking human in front of her was several times stronger than her. One had to know that she was a Chaos Whole Immortal. What a terrifying innate ability! Lin Feng's shock was no less than Bai Tang's. This was the first time he had seen the power of a tail whip. Its extremely powerful impact didn't seem like a whip at all, but more like a saber. A saber that was comparable to his Black Hell Soul severing saber. Although the tail whip didn't have any special ability, it was easy to use and extremely easy to control. Overall, it wasn't inferior to a saber. Moreover, the tail could be strengthened as one's strength increased. Good. Lin Feng stepped into the air and attacked Bai Tang. At this moment, the blood in his body seemed to be boiling, filled with challenge. Bai Tang's strength was very strong. Pung! 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 The continuous battle left the youths below dumbfounded. They even stopped breathing, afraid that they would miss something. Lin Feng's saber force was powerful and vigorous. Now they knew why Bai Jingxian was defeated. Just as Sister Bai Tang said, there was an absolute difference in strength. This young man called Lin Feng was even capable of being on par with Big Sister Bai Tang. Too strong. Bai Tang's face turned white. The energy of the horn on her head intensified. Her brown eyes were as deep as a hole. Suddenly, Bai Tang's aura increased dramatically. Bloodline power. She was preparing to end the battle. Sunglow Burial Wheel. Lin Feng also began to use his Chaos Whole treasure. Compared to the white-tailed human, he had his own advantages. He could control the Chaos Whole treasure. Not only could it change his strength, but it could also increase his combat strength. 12 strange ancient wheels glowing with sunglow were linked together. The light flashed, and the attack method was exquisite and strange. However, when Bai Tang unleashed her full strength, her strength increased by more than twofold. Her white tail was like a python retreating. The pressure on Lin Feng was even greater. However, what truly shocked Lin Feng was Bai Tang's saber art realm. Second level heavenly Tao of saber. Lin Feng raised his saber to block. He was deeply shocked. An unimaginable saber art realm. Her white tail, which was comparable to a peak chaos whole treasure, was condensed from the law of light, and was endowed with an even stronger heavenly Tao of saber. Her combat strength was extremely terrifying. Instantly, Lin Feng was at a huge disadvantage. Whoosh! His eyes flashed with a stubborn light. Lin Feng had always been a person who refused to admit defeat. Even when facing an opponent who was much stronger than him, he still used his trump card. Chapter 14:19. Chi. The two pure white demonic claws on Lin Feng's shoulders suddenly appeared. Each claw had 3 fingers. The terrifying and strange white color looked like wolf fangs when they landed on Zhu Yu's black armor. Nether Nightmare Demonic Claw. At this moment, it suddenly appeared and blocked Bai Tang's sharp white tail attack. There was the sound of metal clashing. This supreme-grade chaos profound treasure was incomparably tough, and the dark demon element had a special power. Although Bai Tang had the upper hand in a head-on collision, his white tail had an inexplicable black color. The dark demon's power seeped into the white tail, making it impossible to defend against. It would have been fine if it was a weapon, but the white tail was a part of Bai Tang's body. The Nether Nightmare Demonic Claw's special power immediately appeared. At Lin Feng's current strength level, a supreme-grade Chaos Profound Treasure was not inferior to a peak Chaos Profound Treasure. Swish! Bai Tang hurriedly retreated. A wisp of black fog appeared on his pale face, but it was suppressed in an instant. At this moment, Lin Feng had also landed. The great momentum had injured him, but this wave of attacks had given him precious time to catch his breath. Black light flashed in his eyes, and a bloody light appeared. Lin Feng clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. Chi! Chi! The two Nether Nightmare demonic claws on his shoulders suddenly stabbed into them. A bloody light bloomed and instantly turned blood-red, making the Nether Nightmare demonic claws seem to come alive. A terrifying power spread out from Lin Feng's body. Nether Nightmare possession. The demonic claws stabbed into his shoulder muscles, and the blood instantly fused. Lin Feng roared, his veins popping like earthworms. His aura suddenly became evil and terrifying. The domineering figure of the Nether Nightmare demonic claw descended behind him. The black hell soul-severing saber in his hand also let out a high-pitched cry. Dark demon element. At this moment, Lin Feng seemed to have transformed into a demon. His comprehension of the dark demon law had skyrocketed, and had long surpassed the greater mastery stage. Even compared to Bai Tang's comprehension of the law of light, it was superior. Again, Lin Feng roared as he fiercely brandished his saber. The saber intent was cold. It was less clean and free, and more decisive and murderous. Even the lightning beast's appearance seemed to have turned black. However, the lightning beast saber technique did not weaken. Instead, it became several times stronger. Dark demon element activated. Devour! The black hell soul severing saber tore at Bai Tang crazily. Lin Feng used the dark magic law to increase the power of the saber to another level. His entire body was immersed in the darkness, and in an instant, he engaged in a fierce battle with Bai Tang. Below, the teenagers of the White Wheel tribe were already dumbfounded. A young man whose strength was only at the level of a dark matter expert was actually evenly matched with their sister Bai Tang? Sister Bai Tang was an immortal chaotic whole expert. Amazing! How can there be such a powerful dark matter expert? What a dense dark devil chi! He must be a martial artist who has been through many battles. No wonder Bai Jingxian wasn't his match. Even big sister Bai Tang was at a disadvantage. While everyone was discussing fervently, Bai Jingxian had already woken up. She stared blankly at the brilliant battle. Thinking back to how arrogant she was before, how she didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, she felt her cheeks turn red. She wanted nothing more than to find a hole to hide in. There was always someone better than you. The mediocre youth, Yihu, who had been defeated by Bai Jingxian, looked at Lin Feng. The saber in his hand trembled slightly. From that black figure, he seemed to see a shadow of himself in the past. At the same time, he also saw himself in the future. One day, I want to be as strong as him. Yihu gritted his teeth and secretly made up his mind. What was a momentary defeat? Everyone's eyes focused. Lin Feng's blood was boiling. He could finally fight to his heart's content. Facing an opponent of equal strength, he could display his strengths to the best of his ability. He didn't take advantage of Bai Tang. Bai Tang didn't use a weapon, and he didn't use spatial energy either. Again, Lin Feng's saber became more and more powerful as the battle went on. The dark devil laws of greater mastery and above were deeply engraved in his mind. With the dark hell soul severing saber and the nether devil claw, the laws had already surpassed greater mastery. Although Lin Feng couldn't comprehend it, it had already left a seed in his heart. In such an intense battle, it was easier to comprehend and break through. For example, saber technique. Almost every teenager here was filled with saber heart, sword heart, and whip heart. The limit of the 12th level. Lin Feng, who had already reached the 12th stage of minute subtlety, was only a step away from the limit. The vigorous power, the intense fighting spirit, made up for the gap between Lin Feng's realms. At the same time, it allowed him to deeply comprehend the realms above the heavenly Tao. Bai Tang's tail whip had the embryonic form of the second level of saber heavenly Tao. One saber against one saber. With the imperial black armor, Lin Feng's defense and endurance were a level higher. When they were evenly matched, he gradually turned the tables. As the battle progressed, he started to suppress Bai Tang. How is this possible? Bai Tang became more and more shocked. She had thought that the youth in front of her could be very strong, but she didn't think that he would be strong to this extent. Even if she gave him a weapon, Bai Tang had full confidence. She didn't think that it would end up like this. Right now, she couldn't advance or retreat. She had already understood the moves of both sides. If she wanted to win, she had to use her saber. But this was slapping her own face. Even if she won, it wouldn't be honorable. But if this continued, the loser would be her. Lin Feng's endurance was too strong. If she lost, she would lose not only herself but also the future hope of the White Wheel tribe. It would be a disgrace for the entire White Wheel tribe to be defeated by a dark matter expert. The morale of the white-tailed youths below the arena would definitely plummet. What should I do? Bai Tang's face was pale and ugly. She hesitated, and even her movements became rusty. Pung! A rebounding force came from in front of her. That majestic and oppressive aura was exhausted. Bai Tang was slightly stunned. She saw Lin Feng land on the ground. His black and blood-red eyes flashed and returned to normal in an instant. Senior's strength is extraordinary. Lin Feng humbly admits defeat. Thank you for your guidance. Lin Feng smiled and bowed. Lin Feng knew his etiquette when he should advance and when he should retreat. It was stupid to show off in someone else's territory. It wasn't his reputation, but the anger of others. Moreover, he had benefited a lot from this battle. He should stop when he was ahead. If he did Bai Tang a favor today, he would get more in the future. Bai Tang bit her lips. The sharp horn on her forehead flashed white. Her white tail moved and wrapped around her waist. Her plump peaks undulated. She nodded. Thank you for letting me win. She had to accept Lin Feng's favor. Bai Tang finally relaxed. She glanced at Lin Feng and nodded gently. Lin Feng smiled. His step back had gained Bai Tang's approval. And clap, clap, clap. The clapping sounds were loud and clear. The youths of the White Wheel tribe were clapping excitedly. Witnessing this wonderful battle with their own eyes made them excited. They looked at Lin Feng in a completely different way. It was worship for the strong. The White Wheel tribe valued strength and strong people. Chapter 14:20. Lin Feng had won the hearts of the youths of the White Wheel tribe with his strength and demeanor. After the battle with Bai Tang, many youths surrounded Lin Feng and chattered incessantly. They took it upon themselves to revitalize the White Wheel tribe and revered the strong. At the same time, they were very curious about the outside world. Lin Feng answered them one by one with a smile. He did not expect that his modesty would gain him so much popularity. Although these youths were young, they were not weak. Each of them was a dark matter expert, especially in the heavenly path of the blade and heavenly path of the sword. They were superior to him. Not far away, Bai Tang also answered the youth's doubts with a smile. Her beautiful eyes glanced at Lin Feng with mixed feelings. She had lost the battle just now. He's really strong. Bai Tang could not help but exclaim in her heart. She had never seen a dark matter expert so strong. He was more powerful than many immortal chaos holes. Are all the warriors in the Milky Way like this? Bai Tang frowned slightly. She had always thought that the Milky Way galaxy was nothing more than that. Not only her, but all the powerhouses in the North Continent thought the same. What kind of powerhouses could emerge from a place where the strongest powerhouses were only at the pinnacle of the immortal chaos hole? However, reality slapped her hard, suffocating her. If Lin Feng had not given her a way out today, the White Wheel tribe would have been humiliated. Yes. Bai Tang nodded slightly. She did not like to owe others favors. After the battle with Bai Tang, Lin Feng quickly integrated into the White Wheel tribe. Every day, he exchanged pointers with the youths and sometimes talked about some secrets of the Ting Chi continent. He talked about the rise and fall of the white-tailed tribe, the domineering winged tribe, the grievances between the three winged rulers, and so on. He became more and more familiar with them. Later, even Ni Xian joined. With Lin Feng's recommendation and Ni Xian's beauty and gentleness, she was smoothly accepted by the youths of the White Wheel tribe. Ni Xian, who had been suppressed by the responsibility of being the saintess of the protector, became more and more cheerful. Her smile was like a blooming flower. To her, this resurrection was a new life given to her by the heavens. Universe Sacred Pillar Palace? Lin Feng asked in surprise. Yes, that's where my saber skills were enlightened and improved. Yihu nodded heavily. He, who had lost to Bai Jingxian that day, now viewed Lin Feng as his idol. His pair of thick eyebrows and big eyes were bright and full of expression. How? Lin Feng asked curiously. By relying on it. One of the tigers pointed at the horn on his head. That was left behind by our ancestors. Only when the white horn resonates with the holy pillar can we enter the hall of the holy pillar. Lin Feng nodded. You must have the bloodline of the white-tailed human tribe. One tiger nodded. Each of our clansmen can only enter 3 times in their lifetime. The first time is when they are young and enlightened. The second time is when they are young and refined. The third time is when they pass the tribe's trial and succeed. As if he was immersed in his memories, Yihu murmured, The first time I was enlightened. I chose the saber and broke through the 7th level of saber heart. The second time I was refined. My saber heart reached the limit of the 12th level and comprehended a trace of the heavenly Tao of saber. The third time, I will definitely be able to step into the threshold of the heavenly Tao of saber. One tiger clenched his fists tightly, his eyes filled with determination. His bloodline wasn't strong, and his other talents were ordinary. The only thing he was proud of was his saber talent. Among his peers, his saber art was definitely one of the best. After comprehending the heavenly Tao of saber, he had almost reached the threshold. Threshold? Lin Feng murmured softly. The saber art that Bai Tang used had reached the threshold of the heavenly Tao of saber. She was really strong. His strength was stronger than hers, and his saber art was more exquisite than hers. However, his saber art realm was completely suppressed by hers. If not for the advantage of the Chaos Whole mystic treasure, it would have been impossible for him to defeat her. There are thousands of great Tao, and each has its own direction. Lin Feng knew very well. The heavenly Tao had many directions. Comprehending the laws was one of them. It was a path that humans and other races with high perceptivity often took. As for the fiends, they often took the heavenly Tao of strength. Strength could defeat everything. This was also a resplendent heavenly Tao. The heavenly Tao of saber was one of the heavenly Taos that belonged to the power pyramid. Comprehending a trace of it would give one the strength of a dark matter expert. Stepping through the threshold would give one the strength of an immortal chaos whole. When a heavenly Tao first arrived, one would become a black domain master. I cultivate both the nomological heavenly Tao and the heavenly Tao of strength, so I'm almost invincible among dark matter experts. Lin Feng was very clear about his current position and the path he was taking. The nomological heavenly Tao was compatible with his bloodline. He had achieved initial success in the 2 nomological heavenly Taos, Lightspeed and Darkfiend. The heavenly Tao of strength strengthened his body to the extreme. He had comprehended a trace of the heavenly Tao of saber. It was precisely because of the combination of the two that his combat strength was astonishing. The nomological heavenly Tao. Now that my understanding of the Dark Fiend nomological laws is much clearer, I believe that I will soon gain some insight. Lin Feng thought to himself. As for the heavenly Tao of strength, Lin Feng was a little unfamiliar with this heavenly Tao. He didn't know where to go. Let's walk and see. Perhaps we will get an answer here. Lin Feng smiled and looked at First Tiger. Come, let's continue. Alright. First Tiger was extremely excited. He benefited a lot from being able to spar with an expert like Lin Feng. To Lin Feng, First Tiger's saber technique realm was above his. He had also gained a lot by suppressing his strength and sparring with First Tiger with saber technique. Although cultivation was important, actual combat often improved faster. Especially saber technique. Every day in the White Wheel tribe, Lin Feng's life was abnormally fulfilling. He cultivated with twice the result with half the effort. From time to time, he would hone his saber techniques and comprehend the Dark Fiend nomological laws. His relationship with the youths of the White Wheel tribe became closer. Lin Feng was able to name every single one of the youths here. They were very simple and kind. Every one of them had a firm dream in their hearts, to revitalize the white-tailed tribe. Clang! Clang! Lin Feng and First Tiger's saber techniques were like rainbows, their battle intent radiating in all directions. The two sabers condensed a unique aura, but they both revealed the domineering aura of the saber wielder. In terms of realm, First Tiger was stronger, but the power of his saber techniques was inferior to Lin Feng's, even if Lin Feng suppressed his strength. They were evenly matched. Every time they clashed, the two of them had different feelings. One tiger's saber technique and fighting experience increased with each passing day. Lin Feng's saber technique also gained an epiphany from the repeated clashes, and he learned from the experiences he had during the fights. Lin Feng could already see the end of the path of Saber Heart. Whoosh! In an instant, the soul-severing saber in Lin Feng's hand shone brightly, and the saber that had been slashing down on the horizon suddenly descended. Lin Feng's saber heart had finally taken the last step and reached the limit. 12-tier saber heart, the limit. Bang! The tiger was repelled, and its eyes were filled with shock. Not far away, Bai Tang had arrived at some point. Her pair of bright eyes looked straight at Lin Feng. Their eyes met, and Bai Tang's red lips moved slightly. I'll take you to a place. Chapter 1421. Following Bai Tang to the lower level, Lin Feng was also curious. The White Wheel tribe was divided into two levels. The upper level was where the tribe members lived and cultivated. The lower level was where all kinds of unique areas, such as the 100 Fruit Garden, the Silkworm Pond, the underground demonic beast field, etc. Lin Feng had been to the lower level before. This was not the hidden place of the White Wheel tribe. This is the Universe Saint Pillar Palace? Lin Feng's eyes were bright as he looked at the ordinary stone hall in front of him. He had glanced at it previously, and Bai Tang did not introduce it. Come in. Bai Tang did not say much and stepped in directly. Lin Feng nodded and followed in. He was not afraid that Bai Tang would harm him. After interacting with the people of the White Wheel tribe, he knew that this was a very simple tribe. They were kind, had a fighting heart, and did not have any complicated thoughts. As soon as he entered, Lin Feng's heart trembled. The surrounding aura suddenly changed. Layers of strange and powerful pressure spread out and enveloped him. What entered his sight was a huge stone hall. Huge stone pillars supported the stone hall. In the center of the stone hall, there were 8 pure white stone pillars, shining with dazzling light. Universe Saint Pillar. These words suddenly appeared in Lin Feng's mind. Bai Tang did not look at him. Instead, she continued to walk forward. Her target was the center of the stone hall. There were 8 pure white stone pillars with strange energy. The Universe Saint Pillar Palace was made by the ancestors of the White-Tail tribe with all their energy. It was to benefit the descendant. Bai Tang stopped. Her beautiful figure with white spots on her beast's skin had a trace of respect. Her expression was full of joy. The 8 Universe Saint Pillars are the Sword Saint Pillar, Saber Saint Pillar, Whip Saint Pillar, Spear Saint Pillar, Claw Saint Pillar, Halberd Saint Pillar, Axe Saint Pillar, Staff Saint Pillar, and Fist Saint Pillar. As expected, Lin Feng looked over. Between the pure white stone pillars, he could vaguely see a saber, a sword, a staff, a whip, an axe, and other weapons. The energy of each saint pillar was almost the same. They all had different feelings. The saber was domineering, the sword was honorable, the axe was destructive, the claw was sharp. That was the most basic Tao of weapons, the clearest understanding. Take it. Light flashed in Bai Tang's hand. Suddenly 2 strange white horns appeared. He handed them over. These are the white horns of one of the descendants of the white-tailed human clan. Pausing for a moment, Bai Tang did not continue. He looked at Lin Feng. Since you have comprehended the laws of light and have mistakenly barged into the White Wheel tribe, you can be considered to be fated with the white-tailed humans. Use the laws of light to stimulate the white horn energy, and you can enter the heavenly pillar to comprehend and cultivate. Just this once. Don't do it again. After Bai Tang finished speaking, he turned around and left. His voice was righteous as he said, I have repaid the favor I owe you. Hua, a fragrant wind blew past, and Bai Tang's figure disappeared. Lin Feng was left alone with 2 white horns. He was surprised. He didn't expect that his kindness that day would be rewarded like this. According to Tiger, even they could only enter the Heaven and Earth Saint Pillar Palace 3 times in their lifetime. This was the treasured land of the White Wheel tribe. The people of the White Wheel tribe are indeed pure and kind. Lin Feng sighed. If it was any empire in the Milky Way, they would not do this. That was the treasured land of the tribe. Lin Feng smiled as a warm current flowed in his heart. He had mistakenly barged into the White Wheel tribe. He did have some fate with the white-tailed humans. Lin Feng's gaze landed on the 8 sparkling and translucent sacred pillars of heaven and earth. He heaved a sigh of relief and then held the white horn. Hua! His eyes lit up. The use of the speed of light law was extremely compatible with the white horn. Thinking about it, its previous owner must have also comprehended the speed of light law. Although Bai Tang wanted to say something, he knew that the white horn's owner must have died an unnatural death. Most likely, he was killed by the winged humans. Shua, bursts of light were released from the white horn. It was perfectly compatible with Lin Feng's body. Almost instantly, one of the heavenly pillars in front of him lit up and resonated with each other. As expected, Lin Feng smiled. Unsurprisingly, it was the blade of heavenly pillars that resonated with him. Although he did not know anything about the heavenly pillars and only heard some information from Yi Hu, this did not prevent Lin Feng from entering. The energy released by the white horn was connected with the heavenly pillars like a bridge. In an instant Lin Feng entered. Lin Feng felt that he was on solid ground. The white fog in front of him covered his vision, but it dissipated in an instant. Feeling his own existence, his talent spirit seemed to be touched. In this unknown world, there seemed to be something that was resonating with his talent spirit. It was time. Lin Feng knew very well. In the vast universe, the black hole represented space, and the white hole represented time. He heard from Yi Hu that after entering the heavenly pillars, time almost stopped. In other words, there was no concept of time here. It was like a cycle going round and round. It did not really stop, but the area controlled by the laws of time. Lin Feng understood and was secretly amazed. To be able to create such a treasure, the ancestors of the White-Tail tribe were obviously not ordinary. It will consume a little soul power. Lin Feng felt it. The laws of space corresponded to the body. The laws of time corresponded to the soul. Although the consumption was small, he could feel it. The stronger the soul, the longer I can stay here. Lin Feng smiled. With his strength, the time he could stay here would not be less than the warriors who passed the trial and entered for the third time. But it was not important how long he stayed. What was important was what he could gain here. Lin Feng walked forward and spread his perception. The whole world was filled with the domineering aura of the saber. When he closed his eyes, he could feel the heavenly Tao of saber. It was as if someone was waving a saber in the void. But he could not see it. Is my heavenly Tao of saber too low? Lin Feng murmured in his heart and continued forward. He was not worried that he could not find any opportunities. Every teenager of the White Wheel tribe who entered could find and break through. Of course, he was no exception. Soon, Lin Feng saw the first treasure land. It was a saber tomb hidden in a sea of clouds. Countless treasured sabers were inserted into huge stone slabs. Even the weakest one surpassed a peak chaos dark treasure. Lin Feng took a deep breath and entered the saber tomb, deeply comprehending it. As he comprehended, his saber heart beat even more excitedly and was extremely saturated. Lin Feng, who was standing at the limit of the 12th saber heart, could vaguely see the light of the other shore. Heavenly Tao of saber. In the Milky Way, one would usually comprehend the heavenly Tao of saber after comprehending the saber heart to the limit. Lin Feng's talent was obviously more outstanding. He had already comprehended a trace of the heavenly Tao of saber long ago. This time, I have to step through the threshold of the heavenly Tao of saber. Lin Feng left the saber tomb. The saber tomb increased the weight of the saber heart. It was not very useful to him now. If he guessed correctly, there should be more strange treasure lands ahead. Chapter 1422. Outside the Universe St. Pillar Hall. Bai Tang stood outside the hall quietly. Her beautiful face had a tinge of calmness. Since she was the one who brought Lin Feng into the Universe St. Pillar Hall, she naturally had to take responsibility. After all, Lin Feng wasn't from the white-tailed human tribe. I wonder how long he can stay in there. Bai Tang glanced at the shining saber St. Pillar. The White Wheel tribesmen usually spent a day in there for the first time, half a month for the second time, and about a year for the third time. The stronger the soul power, the longer they could stay in there. Of course, this day was a day outside and not a day inside the Heaven and Earth St. Pillar. In the Heaven and Earth St. Pillar, one day was equivalent to at least 100 years. Bai Tang closed her eyes and entered a state of cultivation. At this moment, Lin Feng found the second treasure land after leaving the saber tomb. It was a vast desert. The wind howled, blowing the sand into the air and condensing into sand shadows in the void. As the sand drifted, it contained the truth of heaven and earth. The tyranny of the wind combined with the sand. It was simple, but it was deeply imprinted in one's mind. Hua Lin Feng's eyes moved. As his body moved, the sand particles gathered to form a human figure. The tyrannical wind became the saber in his hand. Lin Feng quickly entered the state. Although he didn't have a saber in his hand, his body movements contained saber intent. As he waved his saber again and again, he faintly merged with the desert. Chi, chi, chi. A black figure slowly passed through the yellow sand that filled the sky. Lin Feng's eyes were bright and spirited. He had already comprehended the true meaning of this sandstorm saber technique. Although he had not grasped the saber technique, it was not important whether he grasped it or not. The saber art wasn't strong. It was a guided saber art. The purpose of practicing it was to let one understand the saber heavenly Tao. He had already reached that level. It seems like it's a step-by-step process. Lin Feng gradually understood. It was no wonder that Who entered twice and broke through one level each time. The first level was the saber heart, which came from the saber tomb. The second level was the sandstorm saber art, which came from the desert. Then the third level, the threshold of the heavenly Tao. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. After walking forward for an unknown period of time, they finally passed through the desert and arrived at a violently trembling volcanic region. The numerous volcanoes were like fire-spitting monsters as they emitted terrifying magma. Everywhere the magma passed, everything was burned into ashes and turned into nothingness. There were countless volcanoes, and each volcano was different. Some were tall, some were short, some were flat, some were shooting high into the sky, and some were shooting out like heavenly maidens scattering flowers. Lin Feng stood in the magma field, unaffected by the magma. His eyes were fixed on the volcanoes in front of him. His heart was completely immersed in it. It was very similar to the sandstorm saber technique. The volcanic eruption here was also a kind of guided saber technique. Lin Feng stood there quietly as he watched the volcano erupt again and again. Every time it was a cycle. For example, when the saber technique was executed once, it would transform into a volcanic eruption. The saber technique seemed to have been slowed down by more than tens of thousands of times. Moreover, the details were completely magnified, making it easier to observe and comprehend. Volcano saber technique. Shadows appeared in Lin Feng's mind, but it was difficult to form them. He knew that this was because the realm of the saber technique was not enough. Just like in the boundless desert earlier, he had grasped a trace of the heavenly way of the saber, so he could simulate the true meaning of the sandstorm saber technique. But here, the realm difference was too great. Therefore, the saber technique could not be formed. Ta! Chi! Lin Feng's hands moved rapidly as his feet moved. His eyes never left the volcano. Every time he saw it, he would turn it into an action. He constantly experimented and pondered. Again and again. If he felt it, Lin Feng was delighted. If he did not feel it, he would frown from time to time. In this world where there was no one, Lin Feng slowly comprehended the saber technique without any distractions. The passage of time was like a drizzle of rain, extremely slow. In a quiet valley in the North Continent, cornelian trees were planted all around, greatly weakening and sealing the spatial energy. There were 17 powerhouses gathered in the valley. There were humans, demons, and monsters, but they were not from the Ting-Chi continent. They were powerhouses from the Milky Way. Everyone gathered here today and survived. This proves that you have some understanding of this place. The one who spoke was a silver-haired man with red eyelids. His evil figure had a demonic aura, but he looked like a human. I Ching, a super powerhouse from the Vile Empire. He was a hybrid of human and demon and ranked 24th on the Milky Way Sage King list. His strength was quite terrifying. This is an unknown world. Legend has it that there are 6 winged men, who are stronger than Sage Kings, Sage King He Lu said in a deep voice. It's not just the winged men. There are other human races here, such as the Chan River demon race. They all have masters of the dark region, a figure in black said. This is the Ting-Chi continent. We are in the North Continent, an extremely chaotic place, an old man with a wrinkled face said. As soon as he said that, it caused a heated discussion. Sage King Feng Xiu seems to know a lot? I Ching's red eyelids twitched as his evil voice sounded. I just happened to enter Yurin City before, so I know a little more than you all. Sage King Feng Xiu was the old man with one foot in the grave. His face was full of wrinkles as if he was nearing the end of his life. Yurin City? It was the first time everyone had heard of this name, so they immediately started discussing it curiously. Sage King Feng Xiu, can you share some information? I Ching's eyes flashed. Sage King Feng Xiu's voice was hoarse and low. There's nothing to share. Yurin City is not difficult to find. As long as you can meet a human from the North Continent, you will know the location of Yurin City. That is the gathering place of humans from the North Continent. In the Ting-Chi continent, humans gradually changed after their glory and were replaced by the winged men. Now, the winged men are the dominant race, while humans and demons are struggling at death's door. This is not a secret. You will know once you enter Yurin City. Sage King Feng Xiu coughed violently as he spoke. His face was pale as he closed his eyes in exhaustion. All the Sage Kings nodded in realization. I Ching smiled coldly as his sharp gaze swept across everyone. Everyone, as you can see, we are weak here. It is difficult for us to make a splash with our individual strength. I don't mind telling everyone that the weakest race in the North Continent, humans, is stronger than us. In the Ting Chi continent, immortal chaos holes are nothing to us Sage Kings from the Milky Way. During this period, the Sage Kings have either died or escaped. Less than 100 of us have survived. However, survival of the fittest is the reality. Even if we don't die here, we will die together with the Milky Way super black hole after 11 eras. I Ching's eyes were bright with ambition. However, I can tell everyone with certainty that, if we stay here, we will not die. Even if the Milky Way super black hole is destroyed, we can still survive.